The Walt Disney Company is the parent company of ABC News. I'm Stephanie Officer.
CVS Health supports people in the moments that matter, from picking up a prescription to connecting care. With nearly 5 million daily interactions and serving 185 million consumers and 1.5 million healthcare professionals, CVS Health holds a trusted place in healthcare. By simplifying care and improving health, we're helping people get the care they need. Learn more at cvshealth.com/investor day.
A new exclusive offer with an eligible Bank of America Visa credit card is your opportunity to go from cardholder to ticket holder for the FIFA World Cup 2026. For a limited time, when you're approved for a new customized cash rewards or unlimited cash rewards Visa credit card, you're eligible for a chance to purchase FIFA World Cup 2026 tickets. Learn more today at bfa.com/cardfwc26. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of FIFA World Cup 2026. Bank of America N.A. in partnership with Visa. Terms apply. All rights reserved.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's Dependable Lock Services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner telling. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
NASCAR. It's more than just driving fast and turning left. Bob Bianchi and myself, Bob Bartis, are credential-carrying members of the NASCAR media. Each week, our live 2-hour broadcast breaks down everything happening in the world of NASCAR. We recap the prior week's race results, preview the upcoming races, and discuss the NASCAR news. If you like racing or fast cars, join us live in the showroom at Allen Mello Dodge every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m. or listen, stream, and watch at wsmn.live.
Hello. As the holidays approach, we at the Nashua Community Music School want to give thanks to our friends and supporters. Together, we are dedicated to serving our community through music. As we approach this giving season, consider visiting our website, nashuacms.org, or following us on Facebook and Instagram at NashuaCMS to check out all of the amazing businesses and individuals who support us. Want to reach out and see how we can make innovative music accessible to everyone? Give us a call at 603-881-7030 to see how you can help put the community in the Nashua Community Music School.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Gorton.
Indeed, folks, welcome back. It is the last day of the year. Wow, that's exciting. What happened there? I just heard some reverb there. Welcome back. My hat is not looking right here because of these headphones. There we go. Now it looks right.
Wow. You look like a wizard.
Yes.
Is it Tim the Enchanter?
No, it's
Colonel Chris Wyatt.
Little tampon Timmy Waltz, the Enchanter here.
No, do not put yourself down.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to the program, and Happy New Year to everyone around the world who watch us around the planet, particularly our viewers in South Africa, and to our viewers in Nashua and the greater area of New Hampshire, there in New England, and around the country. It's a pleasure to have you join us once again for our final broadcast of 2025. One thing I will promise you tonight is we will not have another show this year. I guarantee it. This is the last one.
Whatever happens.
You can hold me. You can hold me to that. I guarantee there won't be another one. Okay. Well, guys, as usual, there's a lot to talk about. Let me start with John up there in Nashua, New Hampshire, and then I work my way over to Todd in just a moment. John, what's the word? How you doing? Looks like you've got a little bit of remnants of snow across the street there, but nothing really no accumulation.
Oh, we've had a lot of snow here so far this winter season. Kicked right off, with snow and ice, and my driveway's a skate rink for sure. A lot of people are. That ice doesn't work so well when you're below 17 degrees, as you know. But downtown Nashua, New Hampshire right now, man, it's been thriving pretty good. I come in here, about 6:30, 6:45 or so, and parking was a little challenging. So, I guess people were out and about enjoying their new year.
Well, I'm a little confused. That global warming thing's got me confused. I thought you'd be sweltering in the heat right now. Well, with global warming, the sea level's rising, the temperature's rising. John, it looks like it's not quite working out that way in Nashua anyway.
No, Chris, it's we're warming up. Oh, but it don't work that way. It's going to get really cold too sometimes, but then it's going to warm up again. Geez, you know what? I thought that was just weather.
Yeah. Call me crazy. I thought that was winter, spring, autumn, fall,
Yeah. Don't you remember it was the
summer or fall, right?
It was the environment. Remember, it was the environment. Then it was global warming. Then it was climate change. I don't think they know.
Well, John, I have just one message for you. You destroy the world.
Yeah. Me and my big fat pickup
Greta
truck
just arrived, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right. Greta Dimberg is in the building. All right, Todd, what's the word there? Yeah, and that's what I always call her, Dimberg. She's not one of the brightest light bulb in the tool shed. What's the word, East Tennessee, my friend?
Well, I tell you, we're getting ready for the new year. We've had some winter weather. We've had some summer weather here in December over the Christmas holidays. Yeah, a couple of days ago, I was out on my deck. It was 70 degrees. I was enjoying a cigar.
That's global warming. We found it.
Yeah, right. Now it's a little bit too chilly to be outside, but looking forward to a new 2026. I think it's going to be. I'm optimistic. It's an election year. Hopefully some good Republicans will be running for office. I know here in Sullivan County, Tennessee, we got a local election. A lot of people picking up to run for local office, the county commission. I think that's a good thing. The more people that run, the better. Get your message out there. I encourage that. Anyway, that's my thoughts for New Year. Get out there and run for office.
I have to ask, what's the temperature that's too chilly to be outside in Tennessee? Is it 68 degrees?
I don't know. It's just chilly. I'm just not going to be out there, John. How dare you? I'm a free American. If I want to sit inside and get diabetes,
you have a right to make your choices. I was just being a smart.
I have to say that my ideal temperature for being out on the porch with a cigar is 38 to 55 degrees. That's perfect for me.
The perfect temperature to enjoy a Coca-Cola and a cigar. Yeah.
If you just don't have that wind chill cutting through you, I don't mind it.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Today it was lovely. There's not as much wind, but a couple of days ago it was the same temperature, and it was bejesus cold out there because the wind was biting right through you. That wind chill really brings it down. So, guys, it has been quite the epic year. Last year in November, we saved America, and it looks like we saved the world with our vote to restore Donald Trump to the White House. And while the 4 years in agony were truly breathtaking and heartbreaking for Americans and for the world, and the damage it did to America will be felt for decades, what Joe Biden's criminal regime did to us, it almost seems like, I don't want to say this, but I almost want to say that it was for the best, because people appreciate Trump now that he's back. They've forgotten that there were record amounts of income, record low unemployment for Hispanic Americans, for Black Americans, for women, record incomes for households, especially Black households, incomes increasing by $8,000, $10,000 over a 3-year period. They've forgotten all that. Record low, and unemployment was particularly low because Trump set the stage. Of course, that was all kind of distorted by the COVID scam, and people lost track of it. They forgot what Trump did the first term. So a lot of people are surprised, John, after 10 months that the tariffs haven't set off, a depression, that the economy isn't imploding. In fact, the United States is leading the world. We have faster GDP growth than China does now. China is falling behind. And, we were told they're going to overtake us, and maybe they will one day. I mean, they ought to with 1.5 billion people. That's 5 times our population, but it's just not happening, John. I mean, all the naysayers
got upside down and all that, man. They started depopulating, too many male children being born. They got rid of their female children, and they got themselves into a bind because now the working classes were getting to be a retiring age, and they really need robotics or something to survive. So, I don't think they'll be conquering us. Did you hear that Iran's having a lot of protests?
Violent protests. They're killing protesters. Their currency has collapsed. It's game on. We'll see if the mullahs survive this one. I'll tell you what, if the CIA or the Trump administration gets involved, we might see, enough to help push that government out of office. What do you got there, Todd?
Right. No, if you think about this, a few years ago when Obama was in office, they had the opportunity. Was it the Green Revolution? I think that's what it's called. They had the opportunity to push him over, but they chose not to. And now we have a ripe opportunity to take advantage of it, I think.
I'm just wondering, maybe taking their oil and taking their freighters. we're taking their ships and their oil. It's not getting to them now. I'm wondering maybe if that's part of their problems. We're creating economic collapse.
Well, Iran has retaliated. They seized a tanker in the Persian Gulf the other day. So
one of ours?
No, it wasn't one of ours. No, that would be suicide.
They seized one of theirs. Yeah, they seized one of theirs. See, we can seize them too, by the way.
That would work under Obama, not so much under
Trump.
Trump.
Yours, buddy.
We've already seen, that we've sent pilots from Nevada on Red Bull and pissing into, their Red Bull cans when they're done for 36-hour flight. I think the Iranians realize that we've got plenty of Red Bull and cans to piss in to make the trip there and back in one piece. So
absolutely.
I don't think they're going to seize U.S. flags. Remember when Trump was president before, they seized U.S. military and naval personnel on a ship in the Gulf.
I remember that.
Yeah, this cheeky country. But no, look, it's been pretty crazy year in so many respects, but we saved the world, and all the doomsayers, the naysayers, they're apoplectic now. They can't explain how the economy is growing at 4.3%, but their biggest story is that, affordability. Yeah, but 87% of the price hikes occurred during Joe Biden's time in office. They seem to forget that. The Republicans have to do a better job, Todd, of telling the world that this mess is the one that Trump inherited and it takes time to fix it. But in the meantime, he's growing the economy. He's got over $20 trillion investment promises. Hundreds of billions have actually already started. They've broken ground in several factories here in America. It's a new dawn. It's the golden age of America.
Yeah, I agree. But here's the thing. You have a number of members of the House, Senate, et cetera, the Republicans, since that's what we're talking about, that go out and they campaign off of this, or they go out and try to raise money off of it instead of just explaining to the American people. Stop trying to raise money off of every positive thing that you do. Go out and talk to the people. Here's what we did. Here's how it's working. Here's what we need to do moving forward. Then later on, you can ask for money, whatever. But don't sit there and tell me how good you did and ask for money. I just despise that. Sorry.
Well, John, what I've noticed this year is just how nasty, vile, repulsive, and disgusting the leftists really can be. They'll make up anything they possibly can. I just saw an op-ed in a South African media outlet written by a scumbag leftist from America saying the most idiotic things about where America's at and how it's a collapsing empire. First off, we're not an empire, but just utter nonsense. They've just really shown what nasty human beings are and how spiteful they are. I mean, the worst we did was call Joe Sleepy Joe when he was president. But these people are just demented and evil, John.
Oh, well, yeah, I think you just discovered this over the last year. I mean,
no. I mean, no, I've known this, but I mean, it's the length still go. Look, when things are going bad and they say bad things, they can go over the top and they do that. But when things are going grand, they're just making up fairy tales to convince the faithful lapdogs that things are bad. I mean, how do you tell someone that an economy of $36 trillion to $34 trillion growing at 4.3% GDP is a bad thing? That's not bad. It's 6% that could be bad because that's too fast. At 2%, that's too slow. But that sweet spot is 3.2 to 4.5%, and we're going at 4.3%. This is unbelievable. Interest rates are coming down. Incomes are rising. The tax cuts are about to kick in. The previous tax cuts were made permanent now. The only bad news on the horizon I can see is the Obama scumbag, Unaffordable Care Act subsidies that Biden put on top of that are expiring on January 1st, tomorrow. And that's going to put a lot of people in a bind. But that's not Trump's fault. That's not the Republicans' fault. Remember, Nancy Pelosi, of course, said, just vote for the bill, John. Just vote for it. Then you can read it.
Yeah, we had to vote for it to know what was in it. That was ridiculous. Yeah, so much ridiculousness. But yeah, you're talking about the party that's wanting to protect criminal elements in the country. Some of them criminal alien invaders, like Garcia there. What's his name? I can almost think of it. They can't decide where to put him. No, they can't put him in El
Castro,
Salvador.
is that the guy's name or something like that?
Yeah. Anyway, they want to protect the criminal element of the left. They're supposed to be the party of the people, remember? And when Joe Biden was in office and the railroad unions were on strike, he shut it down. He put an end to it, not in favor of the strike, not in favor of those that needed better in the working environment. He did better for the railroad in it. They're the same people that turn around and say, well, these guys are criminals and rapists and murderers, and we got to protect them, but negate the victims.
Guys, for decades, the Democrats throughout our entire lives have hoodwinked the American public, claiming they're for the little man, claiming they're for the unions, claiming they're for the workers, claiming they're for minorities. It's utter nonsense. They just pander to people, and people are dumb enough to vote for them decades. It all goes back to the New Deal under King Franklin Roosevelt. This is where this nonsense started, where they bought the votes, and they bought it for decades. And people just voted the pattern they were expected to vote, believing blindly in the Democratic Party, which has brought us corruption, brought us racism and bigotry. Remember, it was Republicans in Congress who pushed for civil rights legislation during the Eisenhower administration, and the Democrats in the Deep South defeated it twice. They did get a couple bills through, but they weren't strong enough. Then they wanted to take credit when Johnson became president because he realized that, hey, if we pander to Black Americans, we'll get their vote forever. Let's do that. So they created the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, and I'm not saying they aren't good piece of legislation, the Civil Rights Act, but the Voting Rights Act is an abomination. But my point is that these were acts to pander to Black Americans and get their vote for decades. And Black Americans vote blindly for Democrats. Wealthy Jews vote blindly for Democrats against their own personal interests. Todd. Tom is another program. Senior moment there. Todd, it's unbelievable how gullible people are. I mean, look at the history of the Democratic Party. This is the party that brought us the expulsion of the Native Americans from the Southeast and the theft of land by Andrew Jackson, the first Democratic president. These are the people who brought us the corruption in the construction area under Andrew Johnson, another Democratic president. These are the people who brought us the first ever movie that was screened in the White House, The Birth of a Nation, which is a racist, pro-Klan, pro-lynching movie. Wilson, who segregated the federal workforce, the racist in chief. Then we have the racist Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who imprisoned Japanese Americans who were fourth-generation citizens here because they looked different. Their skin was yellow and their eyes were slanted, put them in concentration camps. These are the people who actively defeated civil rights legislation. It was the Republicans who enforced Brown versus Board of Education, sent the U.S. Army to Little Rock, Arkansas to make sure that little Black kids could go to school. It was Republicans who ended slavery. It was Republicans who've done everything good in this country's history. The Democrats take credit for all the time. Todd, please tell me something Democrats did that was good. I'm waiting. Go ahead.
If you give me a few minutes, I'll quote Eisenhower. You give me a few minutes, I might think of something. Right?
Eisenhower was a Democrat until he ran for president. He was like Trump.
Well, he never voted really, so I don't think he was one or the other really.
Well, he was registered Democrat, and but prior to running for office of president, he changed parties. Like Trump,
maybe
did.
So.
Yeah.
But think about this. Go back to that era, and even before then, you have all these generals who ran for president who never indicated one way or the other which party they lean, like Eisenhower is an example. So many other great generals who ran for office, you didn't know until they showed up at a convention. Hey, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. I think that's the way we should get back to as far as that.
Well, Ulysses Grant.
Side note.
Grant is another one. Yeah.
Right. That's just a sidebar. Sorry.
But I can tell you one guy. I know one guy will know if he ever runs for president, and that's Milley. We know he's a Democrat.
Yeah. Let's forget it. He's a Dem. Yeah.
I don't understand what white rage is.
And he just, I don't understand how he went off the rails. He's an SF guy, Ranger, a Delta Force guy. In my understanding, he commanded Delta. Did he command Delta Force? I think maybe.
I don't know. I just knew him.
I think
as a
he was
four-star.
in Delta Force, and now you're this nutball lefty. I don't get it. Those guys
can you imagine being called over from the Pentagon in your duty uniform, which happens to be fatigues? You report to the White House, not for a White House meeting, so you don't change, but to walk the streets of D.C. What's appropriate? Fatigues are appropriate.
Appropriate.
And then you apologize for being militaristic. Oh, shut up and resign right now.
Right, absolutely. He was out there doing an official assessment because the commander-in-chief asked him to. When a commander-in-chief asks you, he's telling you to. You don't say no. He went out there and did a security assessment. You shouldn't apologize for that. Hey, I went out and did a security assessment with the president. Period.
Yeah, that guy, he kneecapped himself. He's like his own IRA. He's like his own IRA. Here, hand me the revolver. I'll do it myself. Dumb.
Which way it points out?
What's this? Good Lord. I tell you, man, what a crazy bunch of stuff. But a lot of stuff that's going on now, guys. The ACA is ending. Well, not the ACA itself, but the subsidies that Obama or that Biden put on top of it, most people didn't realize. So I hear people complaining, and rightly so. I understand where they're coming from. Well, my monthly premium or my premiums are going from $300 to $1,200. I'm thinking, okay, all right, that's less than mine, and I spent 40 years in uniform. And what do you complain about? We're subsidizing your health care, so you pay less than I do. You didn't serve in combat. You didn't give up your life for this country. You didn't miss everything for this country, serving overseas in crap old countries for years on end. And you're getting subsidized welfare, and you're making more income than I am. That doesn't seem right to me, Todd.
Absolutely. I got into in 2018 when I ran for Congress. I was at a group, a luncheon, and it was a political group. A lot of conservatives and some libertarians. I got into an argument with a libertarian talking about the VA. He's like, "Well, why do they get it and I can't get it? I should be able to. I'm an American citizen. I pay for. Why should I not get it?" I'm like, "Did you serve? No." And they're trying to make an argument that it's not fair that veterans get VA health care or whatever we get through the VA. Oddball stuff there. We've earned what the VA healthcare, etc. These people that just want to take advantage, I'm sorry, you've not paid into anything. You've not given up your time, your body, etc. So you really don't have a leg to stand on. Anyway, that's my thought.
The thing of it is they don't stop to think. If they're going to subsidize it, that means we're once again deficit spending. And we're going to put it on the back end, meaning creating a national debt. It's got to be paid back at some time. So it's costing you more in the long run, or you're just taking it from your future generations.
It's
and that's
never
not
paid
right
up front.
Either.
It's never paid up front.
So
it's ironic.
It's the item that doesn't pay for it. It doesn't support itself. Therefore, it's proven that it's not affordable. It doesn't work. It's not what they described it to be. They just don't want to face it. They think that it makes it affordable because you're borrowing money you can't afford to borrow to put it on the back end.
If you pour more money, they think they can save it, and that's not the case.
But Todd, to your point about the disability, it's not a great term for that for the VA. But your point about that is well taken. I've reported on this many times in the past couple of years. The Washington Times and others have tried to distort the argument, claiming it's unfair because people on Social Security disability get lesser payments, but they fail to mention that people on Social Security disability never have to work a day in their life. They get disability payment because they're physically incapable of working, and it's a minimal income. Service members are compensated. It's like insurance. That's how I look at it. When you're in a traffic accident, if you're injured, you get insurance to make you whole again. That's the purpose of it. Now, we can't make people missing limbs and missing testicles and having traumatic brain injury whole again, but we can make people to some degree compensate them for that. And that's what this is. Ironic you should bring this up because I have an article here and I've got a few lines I want to read from it, if that's all right with you guys.
Absolutely. Please.
All right. So this appeared in military.com today. And it says that why the VA's disability system is really workers' compensation. I don't agree with that assessment, but I agree with where the author is going. Every service member enters and leaves the armed forces with a medical examination. That procedural fact reflects the original logic behind the Department of Veteran Affairs calls disability compensation. These payments were not designed as a safety net for those unable to function in civilian life, which is what I said. They were designed as a liability mechanism. And that's because under the Ferris Doctrine, we can't sue the government for injuries that happen to us. Therefore, since we have no right of recourse, they have this mechanism here. If military service caused lasting medical harm, the federal government would compensate for that harm as an employer would compensate an injured worker. That framing has been lost in modern discourse. Recent media coverage and political rhetoric have increasingly treated VA disability as a cultural or moral issue rather than a legal and institutional one, distorting public understanding of what the program is and why it exists, which has been my point. The term disability is taken on a social meaning far beyond its statutory definition. In public discourse, it often implies incapacity, dependence, and is associated with abuse of public resources. When veterans file claims for post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, degenerative joint disease, which is what I've got on two sides of the body now, hearing loss, or military sexual trauma, the label itself invites suspicion rather than recognition of occupational harm. This framing shapes who the public perceives as deserving. A visibly wounded combat veteran fits the cultural archetype. Veterans with chronic pain, neurological injuries, psychological trauma, exposure-related illnesses, and often do not meet that concept in people's minds. VA eligibility turns on medical evidence and service connection, not visibility. The gap between appearance and entitlement produces the stigma the statute never intended. And recent commentary has amplified this effect. So that's the bottom line here. These people, these stories in 2024 and 25, several high-profile news stories, the author doesn't mention them. I'll tell you, it was the Washington Post, focused on alleged abuse of veterans' benefits and rising disability rolls. These stories triggered backlash from veterans organizations and legal scholars who argued that the coverage omitted crucial context, like I've included, including changes in eligibility law, which expanded for burn pit, and that the PACT Act, which the number of people now qualify is much larger because Congress passed a law. That's why the benefits as well. Also, the fact that now they're looking at secondary causes. For instance, my hip joint pain has caused a displacement of my back because the way I have to walk without being treated. And so I have a back injury now. And that's a secondary one. I haven't even made a claim for that, but I'm entitled to benefits for that. The VA data shows a majority of recent claims involve so-called invisible injuries. particularly PTSD and traumatic brain injury. Conditions were historically underdiagnosed and undertreated. Many of these conditions manifest years after service, especially among post 9/11 veterans, Todd and I. Rising claim numbers reflect expanded recognition and delayed diagnosis, not sudden mass malingering. And that's exactly right. This is disgusting. And I've been talking about this for the past 2 years because I noticed that article in Washington Post a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, and they've attempted. And this is what I said. When January 6th happened, I said, you watch. I just said after Trump lost the election in 2020, they will begin targeting veterans and malign veterans to undermine credibility in the military. And once they have achieved a degree of success about maligning us, they will attack active duty. And that's exactly what they've done for the past years.
Yeah. Yep. You said it on this show right after January 6th, and you said it dozens of times before. And, you brought up many examples over the past few years about that after January 6th. Look what they're doing here. They're undermining veterans. Somebody commits a crime. Oh, they're a veteran. They throw that in there, veteran, whatever, just to try to say, look, these people are unhinged. There's something wrong with them. Let's push them out of the way. They're less than human. It's a way to if you can dehumanize somebody, it's an easy way to go after them and defeat them politically. Anyway, that's my thought on that.
No, I agree with that thought 100%. And, that article says it's workers' compensation is akin to that. And I suppose that legally that's fair. But to me, it's not the same. To me, it's like an insurance policy. You and I, because the Ferris Doctrine, cannot sue the government for injuries we incurred during our service. However, the government will compensate us through the Veterans Administration for any lingering issues. So if we're not 100%. I mean, how do you compensate a man who was trying to start a family at the age of 18, got married, goes off to combat, and he goes over an improvised explosive device and has no testicles now?
Right.
He'll never have children. How do you compensate somebody for that? You can't. What we can do is make a small contribution that in part makes them whole to some degree again. And that's the purpose of this. It's like when you have that traffic accident or when your house burns down, the insurance company gives you a settlement that's supposed to make you whole again. We all know that it seldom makes you whole again, but the point is it's supposed to compensate you for that. That's why I have an insurance policy. The Veterans Administration is in essence an insurance policy for injuries and trauma that occurred during our military-related service, and therefore we're compensated that way as long as the VA agrees with it. And if it's not framed in that fashion, I think that these idiots win the argument because they try to equate it with disability. It's not disability. That's why I don't like the VA disability claim. It should be service-connected compensation or something like that.
Yeah, and that's the better way to look at it, because whenever you say disability, everybody's like, every civilian out there who claims disability who don't deserve it, people start to think of that like, oh, so and so who fakes back injuries or fakes this, trying to get disability, trying to game the system. We get lumped in with them because of the word disability, and I think we probably should change the name, like you said, Colonel.
Well, the other piece of this too is people think it's a gravy train. They always talk about the 100% with people with special this, that, and the other.
No.
Okay, I'm 50%, and what I make doesn't even pay half my mortgage. Okay, it's not much money. I'm grateful for it, and it's tax exempt because it's like it's insurance making me whole, but it doesn't even pay half my mortgage. I can't survive off that. If that was my only income, I would be living in the streets. So people think it's some sort of gravy train. Really need to get. And the other thing too is that for many veterans, if it's not 50% and you don't meet certain thresholds, your retirement check is offset by that.
Yeah.
So if you have a retirement check, and which is a penalty, I mean, if you have a veteran as a service-connected issue and it's less than 50%, they'll get a compensation check, but they never retire from the military, so the VA pays all of it. But if you have a service member that doesn't meet the threshold, which I think you qualify for as well, but I know I did, but not everybody does. It depends on your service and nature of your service. There's a certain law. But if you don't qualify for that, you could serve 20 years, and then your retirement check is reduced by the amount that the Army has to no longer pay. The VA pays it. And the only benefit you get is you get no more money. You just get tax exempt, a small portion. It's really not an ideal or fair system. And for people to attack it who don't understand it, it's just, I find it morally repulsive.
Yeah. Oh, I would agree with you for sure. I mean, people who are even enrolled in the VA, people who are involved in veteran service organizations don't understand every facet of the VA, for crying out loud, especially VA compensation math. So a civilian who has no clue of even remotely trying to sit there and dissect it. First off, you don't have any leg to stand on remotely. If people who are involved in it that are enrolled can't even really understand it. So let's stop it with the nonsense trying to compare the two. Leave the veterans alone.
You don't just get compensated for injury after injury. So for instance, I have a paralyzed diaphragm. And I have adult onset asthma because I spent, 2 months breathing burning oil wells.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So those two things, plus I have rosacea, which is tied to that as well. So those three issues are all tied to the same thing. Now I get something for the rosacea. Actually, I got 0 rating for that, even though I have it. But for the lungs, even though there was 3 things, 10, 10, and 10%, 30%. That's not what I got. I got 10%. because it's all one system in the body, the respiratory system. So because I have 3 different things at 10%, I only got 10% compensation. So people think there's some sort of gravy train. A lot of people go through, you get this, it adds up to like 150%, and then you wind up getting 70% because it gets combined, or it goes, it's just, it's a complicated system. And these people attacking it don't understand. All they see is money being spent there. All I see is money being spent on people that are stealing it in child care centers that don't exist in Minneapolis. I'm more concerned about that than VA theft.
Well, I mean, weren't they leering centers where pedos could go look in maybe and then leer in at the kids? I think that's what they were called, right? Leering centers?
Okay. On that sad note, folks, I must remind you that you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives on WSMN. 1590 on your AM dial if you're in the New England area. That skip wave might pick it up outside there at nighttime. And 95.3 on your FM dial. And we're also on the interwebs, as Todd likes to call it, Facebook and YouTube. You can find us out there around the world for global reach. I guess it did say layering. That's
yeah.
If the child care center caters to Somali children who are first generation and they speak Somali, why are they putting the signs up in English but not in Somali? That's obviously an attempt to hoodwink the government officials.
Oh yeah, the English speakers in the neighborhood, like, oh, that's what that is. We know what that is. They're not taking our money. Let's leave it alone. It's a good learning center, or Leering center, whatever.
Well, do they manufacture jets there for Lear?
Oh yeah, Lear jets. Yeah, right. That's a throwback. Is Lear still? Are they still in business by chance, or did they sell out? Probably.
I think the brand is still around, but they were bought out by someone else.
Right. Absolutely.
Like Piper is still made, but it's only made in Florida, not in Pennsylvania anymore, and it's owned by someone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just a brand. Yeah, but I mean, let's talk about Minneapolis now. Let's move on to that, guys. We've talked about the military compensation. John, what are your thoughts? Maine's getting a bigger population of Somalis. They found out they got a bunch of freebies up there. One of them wound up there. He goes, "Hey, everybody move from Atlanta up here. You'll get everything for free." So they've got about 5,000 or 10,000 of them up there now. But Minneapolis is just swamped with these Somalis, and it turns out a bunch of them are dirtbags.
It's to my understanding that Maine cut funding for this. I'm not absolutely sure
I'll
on
probably
that,
go
but
back
I
to
was
Atlanta.
informed of that from someone. So Maine woke up, that liberal left governor in Maine, I guess she woke up and got her head out of nowhere. This is sick business, man. They've been robbing the federal government for all this kind of money. You're my money, by the way. Our grandmothers can't afford to live off their Social Security retirement. That's supposed to be guaranteed for them and everything. And they get this tiny little pittance. I mean, I got friends, she's not here tonight, but she was complaining she got less than $1,000 a month after 35, 40 years of working her butt off. And all she can get out of Social Security is like $900 a month or something. Nobody's living on that. And how much of it do they take for Medicaid or Medicare, whatever the elderly get? I always get it backwards.
Well, I mean, in essence, basically 18% of our incomes goes to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, because you pay 6.25%, your employer pays 6.25%. In my case, I am my employer, so I have to pay the whole 12.5%. And then you have another almost 5% that goes to Medicaid and Medicare. So you're paying about 18% of your income.
No, I'm talking about when you start drawing off on Social Security, and so much of your money goes towards medical, right? So they take out a certain percentage for Medicaid.
For Medicaid, Medicare.
So,
part of it goes to Medicare. That's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't get the full money, and then they want to tax it. I think.
Well, and that's true too.
Finally.
Yeah, if Trump is, that's the most immoral thing. How can you tax benefits that have already been taxed before they
right?
Well, technically, they should be deducting those and then taxing the remaining income. They shouldn't be taxing you on what they've deducted. I thought that's how they did it. Maybe I'm wrong, but
as far as I'm concerned, it's a Ponzi scheme. They shouldn't tax you on anything. It's not an investment. It's not like it's a capital gain. If it was a capital gain on a stock and a mutual fund, I could see taxing it. But it's simply paying the rate that they established based on the fact that you paid in.
Okay, so
they screw this up. I downloaded my Social Security statement today, and the last 4 or 5 years are all screwed up. They say I had no income in 2022. That's nonsense. These turds have been taking 18% of my income for 6 years. Not my military check, but because the retirement check, but my all of my other income from consulting. I've been paying 18% of my income, and they're showing $4,300 last year. That's nonsense. And the year before, nothing. Where are they getting their data from? They're not getting it from the IRS. I'm really torqued off because I paid that money in, and now it doesn't reflect it. And my check is getting smaller, which it should. It should be based on the 10 highest years. That's what their rhetoric says. Their propaganda says it's your 10 highest earning years. It's based off that. So I don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
left
they
in stunned silence.
Right. Yeah. No, I was waiting
this
for
is
John
this
to
is the
come back
problem
in.
with our government, man. They tax people. They give tax breaks to corporations all the time. The sums of billions and billions of dollars a year. They give all these tax breaks. They get all this grant money to fraudulent organizations like these ones in Somalia. Every year, man, they're giving them. We found them giving what was it, the US aid. They were giving that out, and then they were funneling money back into the Democrat Party. We seen them doing that. That was discovered, that kind of corruption. So all this money that's been going to waste, that's been fraudulent. And I don't think we're seeing any heads roll on this. We've seen any arrest or announcement of arrest for any of these things yet. I don't believe so. But all this money that's gone, and grandma's over here going, I don't know if I eat tonight or if I go down and get my pills. I got about $20 left. I got the whole rest of the month to go through, and I just don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. We just throw grandma off the side like you're not productive anymore. We don't care.
Well, I have to say, I'll go back to this. I have no problem with tax breaks for corporations because if I were president, there would be no corporate tax. I think it's ridiculous to tax the people who are creating the jobs. Let them make as much profit as possible and distribute it to shareholders and pay raises and pay living wages for the people who work for them. And if you're going to tax income, just tax our income. Taxing corporations, then on their earnings, then taxing the people who get the earnings that already been taxed. Then we put the money in the bank and the interest on it, then tax us on that, then tax. The corporate income tax is the most ridiculous thing. It shouldn't be there at all.
It's compounding on taxation. So basically, you're paying a direct tax out of your paycheck, and then you're paying indirect taxes every time a corporation sells a product, and you're the consumer. You're the one purchasing it. You're paying their taxes in that purchase because they got to pass that tax off on.
No. Hold on. That's yet another tax. You're paying the tax for the retailer. If the retailer is collecting tax, it doesn't cost them any money. They're agents of the government collecting money from you and giving it to the government. They're just a middleman. It doesn't affect them. However, the corporations that produce those things, when they have earnings, have to pay taxes on it, and then they pay the salaries. They can do. So don't tax corporations at all. And of course, that's a radical idea. It's a very libertarian idea, and I think that a lot of people oppose me. But our economy would grow so much faster. I mean, here's the thing: before Trump, we had the second highest corporate tax rate in the developed world. Only Japan had a higher corporate tax. We had 35% tax on corporations, which led to armies of accountants and lawyers to reduce taxation, to find loopholes, all these laws. You can get rid of all that nonsense. It was only bringing a small percentage of the income to the federal government. States is different. If states want to tax, they can try that. But, if Pennsylvania decides to put a 10% tax on corporations, they'll all move to New Jersey or Ohio, West Virginia. So they got to be careful about that and stay competitive. But Trump lowered it to 21%, I think it was, for corporations. And trillions of dollars of money that was banked offshore in the Channel Islands and the Caymans from these corporations was repatriated America. No one talks about this story. We had trillions of dollars pour into our economy during Trump's first term before COVID because Americans brought the money back. Their corporations paid far lower taxes than they were being fleeced for. And that led to higher revenue because so much money was flowing in, which is that's how economies actually work. In addition to this, we were not competitive with Ontario. On the Canadian national tax for corporations, down to 12%. Ontario added like a 5%, so it's 17%. So 17% is still lower than 21%. That's why all of our automotive industry moved to Ontario. That's why Chryslers and GMs are made in Ontario, not in Michigan. And
what didn't already move to Mexico,
Exactly. Well, they moved to Canada before they moved to Mexico. Then they started moving to Mexico because Canada's right there. You just drive across the bridge, you're back in the United States, and the Midwest is a huge market for these cars. So this is the part that the economists are too stupid to tell people about or too stubborn. This is important. No corporate taxes, let them make money. And then people invest more money in corporations because they're more profitable. They'll have more capital. They'll be able to expand. They'll be able to hire more people. They'll do more experimentation. They'll come up with more innovations like Post-its, which becomes a multi-billion-dollar market for a silly idea of putting a little bit of glue on the back of a piece of paper. Look what happened there. So, this corporate tax is the dumbest thing ever, and it should be done away. And if I ran, I tell you what, maybe that's what I need to do. Just come out and state I'm running for governor of Pennsylvania and tell the corporations I'm going to end corporate taxes. I'll bet I'll get millions of dollars flowing into my campaign.
You'll do better than I would because you and I have been in disagreement on this. I feel like it's the people should not be taxed because they are natural person under natural law. I don't think they should be taxed for that reason alone. But corporations are better equipped to handle taxation. Why burden the individual? Let the corporations handle the money. The problem is the government doesn't want to do that because you can save money. It doesn't mean you'll be paying taxes if you're not spending. So they can tax your work because it's guaranteed taxation for them.
I think he's about to. I think he's about to say something. Here we go.
You're saying corporations are
Firing
better
them up.
equipped. Do you think IBM started as a $200 billion enterprise? Do you think Sam Walton started with Walmart as a global enterprise with 2 million employees? No. They started as a mom and pop operation who struggled to make it. Jeff Bezos started in his garage selling books by mail order.
Yeah.
Driving
These
a Honda
corporations, same
Accord for
corporations.
decades. Yeah.
Small business is small business is the lifeblood of our economy, just like it is in Germany. And small businesses can't get anywhere when they're overburdened with regulation that's unnecessary and with taxation. I agree with you. Individuals should not be taxed on income. It's immoral. It's immoral. But we're not getting rid of the 16th Amendment.
We don't have to get rid of the 16th Amendment. We just got to get Congress to change the statutes, to change the laws and stuff. But
that
they
ain't
hope
gonna
to get
happen.
rid of the 16th Amendment. No, of course it's not going to happen, man. Can you believe they actually one time had a direct tax in the 60s, the Revenue Act of 1863 to pay for the Civil War. And when it was paid off, they said, "Oh, look, the debt's all paid off. We don't need this tax anymore." And they got rid of it. But then, they started a little bit.
But that's not how it works normally. They imposed the federal excise tax of 3% on telephones at the turn of the 20th century because only the wealthy had telephones. Well, we all had telephones by 1940, by 1970, by 1980, and we were all paying 3% on our telephone bill to the federal government for 100 years before they repealed that. It became a cash cow.
Yeah.
So take away the corporate tax, and that'll get us started. And that's the thing. If the federal government eliminates the corporate tax, then states will have to compete for the businesses. They'll lower their corporate taxes. They'll become slimmer. We'll have less waste, and it will create more jobs, more investment. There's a lot of people walking the street. What's going on? You got gangs. This is the gangs of
New Year's
Nashua.
Eve, man. We got
It's New
people
Year's
who want
Eve.
to
Yeah.
Oh, they're all getting
bring in
liquored
and
up.
usher in the new year. That's
They're all getting
2026
liquored up.
is going to be the
They're reveling. Yeah.
semi-quincentennial year next year.
Revelers.
Let me ask you a
Okay.
question, John. Across the street behind you there.
That's what I'm looking at.
That middle window. If you look over your right shoulder, what is over there? Is that a bar back there by chance?
No, that directly across the street
Yeah.
is the new art center.
Oh, okay. So
They hold
maybe having some-
concerts and stuff there.
Not a bunch of geeks.
Yeah. No,
It's New Year's Eve, nerds.
They
Get
just
out
put that
and do
in, man. They
something.
finished that a year and a half ago, maybe. I don't know, maybe that long. I don't recall exactly,
cool.
but
Revenge of the Nerds, man.
Ogre
Revenge of the Nerds. Hey, these might be our listeners down there now.
No,
Careful.
we're kidding.
I seriously doubt they're listening to us if they're going to the art center
They
right
got
now.
headsets on. They're listening, going in, going.
No, yeah,
I
sure.
think these
They
guys,
got
man. These guys are
Walkmans. They
okay.
got Walkmans. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, Walkmans.
Walkmans.
You can tell they're Gen Xers if they got Walkmans, right?
Well, last night, guys, President Trump had his first vetoes of his second administration. He vetoed 2 bills. One was related to Colorado and a water pipeline, and the other was for Indian land in Florida. He said the Indians are, colluding to undermine our immigration system. So that was interesting. Lauren Boebert's not too happy about the one in Colorado. Her feelings are hurt.
Noticing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
she's
think
still
she
a
may
fan?
be on the outs with the president as well.
Well, she'll get in that pity party boat with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And she's been one of those firebrands as well, man. Just nutsos. And she divorced her husband a couple years ago. Now she's apparently dating Kid Rock or whatever.
Are you talking about Brobert, the one that was
Boebert.
molesting a liberal in a playhouse somewhere sometime?
Lauren Boebert, yeah, that I remember that, whatever that was, and then
That's
she
when
was
she got
apparently down in
quiet.
Texas recently at a Kid Rock concert, where her campaign had to pay for the flight down there, a hotel, and transportation and tickets to the show. And people are like, couldn't your boyfriend just get you tickets? So apparently the campaign, they're investigating her for campaign finance fraud by chance. So see how it goes.
Well,
What an idiot.
A lot of these
These nutso firebrands that got in there around the Trump first administration. I mean, some of these people are just odd ducks. I'll just put it nicely. And Boebert's one of them, I think.
I agree.
I
Marjorie Taylor
was
Greene's
so
another.
close to having an interview with Brobert, and she bailed on us. I mean, like she was right there getting ready to pull her into the show, and boom, she took off and went somewhere. I don't know where she went.
Well, I forgot that we almost had her as a guest, so it certainly isn't sour grapes that we're talking about her. But yeah, no,
Right.
there's a number of these folks. And some of them are part of the caucus that it led to the multiple votes to get the speaker there. If you remember that was a big struggle. Multiple times they finally gave in on it. But yeah, no, it's so this is his first vetoes, and these are bipartisan bills. So we'll see what happens. Well, we'll see. I mean, if the Republicans in the House get bent out of shape at Trump or not, but I think they should just move on if they want to adjust the bill. And I think the parties involved should, recalibrate their position on certain issues of importance to the federal government. Also, the president's withdrawing the troops in Portland and Chicago. So that's happening as New Year's comes up. And
Right.
I don't know if you guys saw last week, but the crime statistics are the greatest reduction in murders year over year in like 30 or 40 years or recorded history.
Well,
20% fewer murders.
I don't think that has anything to do with police in the streets or anything. And,
Nah, it's just coincidence.
Yeah, it must be coincidence.
I think it's all because of Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
you,
sure,
you know,
right,
it's
yeah.
the
Good
music that's
feelings.
soothing these guys out. Yeah, that's it. You got
Yeah,
it.
you'd be surprised what a presence patrol will do in neighborhoods, and I think that has played effect, especially in some of these cities he's had National Guard. I think it has played a small effect in lowering, especially crime like murder.
Well, I would agree with you that
It's
definitely
the
makes a
broken
difference.
windows theory, right? From way back.
Oh, it's
Something like that.
deterrence. Deterrence
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
It's, Reagan spent hundreds of billions of dollars and bankrupted the Soviet Union, and it worked.
It's
Yeah,
kinda,
absolutely.
It's kind of like that guy in Indianapolis was come out of the restroom shooting at people until somebody started firing back, and he was running for his own life. Deterrence worked.
Yep.
Well, that's not deterrence. That's shooting back. Yeah.
Well, he
But
was
yeah.
deterring him from shooting. I decided, hey, I don't like being shot at so much. Either did those victims. So,
Exactly.
who is Lady Shredder? Was that Brobert? Is that who James was referring to?
I have no idea.
Said still would love to see an interview with Lady Shredder. I
guess
talked with
so.
her on the phone. I enjoyed the conversation with her on the phone. It's just she was campaigning, so I assumed that she maybe had to run because something came up. But
Yeah, but you should at least said something like, "Hey, I've got an event. I have to step away. I do apologize." They should have let you know up front.
Yeah,
not
but
just, not ghost an interview.
we had what's his name? Who's in Pennsylvania though? Chris, he ran for governor. Now I cannot think of his name off the top of
Doug
my head.
Mastriano.
Yeah, Doug
Mastriano. We had
Colonel
him on
Mastriano.
twice. One time we called Chris and say, "Hey, we got Doug Mastriano live right
Sure
now."
did.
Chris came on. It was like a reunion going on.
I was actually exercising in the park before I had hip problems. I was walking around, and you guys asked me to come on. Doug
Yeah.
Mastriano.
Yeah, so
That's
and the
before he
second-
ran for governor, though. Later he ran for governor.
But the
Right.
second time we had him on, we were having a good interview, and all of a sudden you see him looked up and he nodded his head and he says, "Gentlemen, I got to run." Something came up, and boom, he was gone. I mean, it wasn't even like, "Bye, see you. Hey, can we get you on again?" Boom, he was hanging up and going. So sometimes this stuff just pops up and they got to run. In the middle of a
Yeah.
campaign, they can't. Sometimes you
Yeah.
just can't hang.
Well, speaking of future guests, we should have Morgan Murphy out of Alabama running for Senate down there. I think probably Trump will endorse him if he's not already. Morgan Murphy out of Alabama. So I sent a note to him the other day. So he said, just send me the email. And so we'll coordinate that in the new year.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the Trump administration responding to the mess in Minnesota froze all child care to Minnesota. But now Health and
Smart.
Human Services has frozen all child care to every state and territory until each state proves that it's being spent legitimately. Wow.
There we go. Hey, you're going to force them to do the job and do some investigations. I mean, and at the same time, the state's can't cover up, the fraud that's going on if they find it. You can't be like, "Oh, it's good to go," because guess what? You're committing a felony. I don't think anybody wants to go to prison for that. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Andrew Nixon, who's spokesperson for Health and Human Services, told ABC News that recipients of funding who are not suspected of fraudulent activity are required to send HHS their administrative data for review. But those in Minnesota who are suspected of fraudulent activity will have to include attendance records, licensing, inspection, monitoring reports, complaints, and investigations. It is the onus of the state to make sure that these funds, these federal
Right.
dollars, taxpayer dollars, being used for legitimate purposes. Wow.
Right.
But little Timmy Watt's going to lose his mind, man. He's going to lose his mind.
Side note on the side note on the Leering places, the Leering centers in Minneapolis. I heard somebody break it down that there was several that they went through and wouldn't even meet the code to even be signed off to be an actual child care center. So they violate the state and local regulations right off the bat. And so how were they operating it with a license? It was obviously fraudulently on multiple levels here, not just the money they were stealing.
Yeah, well, the podcaster who's made this, or video content maker who's made this famous now with the Boxing Day video that came out on Friday last week, he is talking about this now. But there's videos surfacing from investigations Minnesota did from back in 2014 to 2015 when these Somalis would take their kids there. They'd sign a piece of paper they'd be handing an envelope of cash, and then they take their kids right back out.
Right.
The fraud has been going on for decades. This is unbelievable. Who let these people in this country? No proper screening whatsoever. These clowns.
No, and there was a video of one of the centers where they brought in, they bust kids in there. Like no one had been at that center for weeks. They were watching it, and all of a sudden they knew they were going to be there. All of a sudden the kids just bust in there just because they knew they were going to be, I guess, inspected that day or whatever. It's like all of a sudden you have kids there, but you haven't had kids there for weeks prior to that because people were watching these centers just to ensure, hey, maybe we missed something. Maybe it was just that one day they were closed. No, weeks upon weeks that they had nobody there.
It's good to know that they're using the voting buses efficiently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg. One day we'll get around to actually looking at how much money was pilfered during the COVID scams of 2020 to 2024. Billions, probably hundreds of billions of dollars stolen from the American taxpayer, burying us in debt so people can get wealthy off it. I find the whole thing sickening. It's disgusting. But they got away with it. And the statute of limitations will probably run out before these people are ever brought to justice. That's
for sure. Part. Absolutely. And I know that the White House has put out that they've arrested and are investigating, so many hundreds of people. It's like, how many are actually going to go to prison for it? And how many are going to be lower level officials that take like a slap on the wrist and a small prison sentence, but nobody up top is going to go anywhere. I don't think.
Well, I think the good news from my perspective is that, Stolen Valor Tampon Tim, his political career is over. Right. He is stolen valor. Guys, remember that he falsely claimed he had a combat injury because he served in Europe during a conflict. He went there as a guard unit to back up, duty in Germany when people were sent down to the Gulf. And then the 1990s when he got pulled over for drunk driving, he claimed that it's a service related disability. I'm a veteran and that's why I'm stumbling. And they let him off without even giving a breathalyzer. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The stolen valor, Tim. That's who he is.
Yeah, what a piece of crap. Yeah, I'm sorry. You could say duty related or service connected. That's fine if you hurt yourself on the job. Even if you're just doing PT in the morning, you hurt yourself. Yeah, but that's fine. But don't say it's war or combat connected. Do not do that. If you, sorry.
That's taking me back to the 1970s with MASH, and he was filing a claim for a Purple Heart because he got eggshell in his eye, so he was shelled. And you remember that?
That is funny though. That's why I was
well, to my knowledge, I don't have any combat related injuries, but I could, other than the asthma thing because of the burning oil wells. But I certainly have a lot of nicks and niggles that are a result of military service injuries that took place on deployments, when I'm not being shot at. Yeah, and also just the course of normal business. But one of the viewers just said that unfortunately fraud is like an iceberg. You only see the tip.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So the guys on the Titanic, they're like fraud dead ahead. It's like
fraud dead ahead.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, this whole thing in Minneapolis, they talked about this initially. Kept hearing it was a couple $100 million, then $1 billion. Well, the Department of Justice spoke last week and said it's actually at least $8.7 billion of fraud. Ooh, and it's just insane. Ooh. Yeah. And that's
said billion with a B right there.
Yeah, with a B. Wow. Yeah, that's right. Wow. No, it was a Dr. Evil $1 billion.
If it was a million, we would be like, oh, that's an everyday thing, right? But billions. Come on now.
$1 million is nothing these days.
Yeah. 8.7 over a year. That's low. We'll take that,
But it's what's so bad about this, is that they're talking about they've been investigating the fraud for years, but what they fail to mention is that Minnesota eased the rules on these programs and created new programs around 2020, 21. And this is all actually COVID related fraud. Most of what's coming out now. That's the reason why the federal government is able to prosecute these people because it's still within the statute of limitations. Well, little Timmy Waltz says, well, Trump is politicizing this. We've been investigating this for years. But your investigations have run the clock out because you were so slow with it.
Right.
And you didn't really make anybody pay. Now people are being made to pay for their crimes.
Yeah, well, Timmy Waltz, turn over what you have. What did you investigate? Your State Bureau of Investigation, whatever you call it. Turn that over to the federal government. We'll take it from here. Move on.
Well, I would like to see if somebody could do a deep dive and see if Waltz has any connection to any of these so-called companies. Oh, I would just relish that. I would be salivating to find out that that's true.
Yeah, I imagine there's something, even if it's like a family member making money somehow and it gets filtered back to him. There's a connection somewhere if you go deep enough, like you said.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I don't know if there is. I'm making an allegation, but I would love for there to be a connection so this guy could find it, wear jumpsuits instead of fatigues.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The Sergeant Major, the tough, battle hardened Sergeant Major. Yeah, nonsense.
Yeah, the BS Sergeant Major. Mr. Stolen Valor. I don't have
Yep.
much empathy or respect for anyone who steals valor. When you
Right.
misrepresent your military service, you're not a real soldier.
Well, I was up for the Medal of Honor, but they gave me an AAM instead, Achievement Medal. Yeah, come on, people like that. Yeah, no, they did not.
Yeah. Well, remember, and we don't know if it's stolen valor, what really happened, but remember when Admiral Borda, he was the chief of naval operations, Mike Borda, he offed himself when they had an interview and they said that he didn't have a V device for a Navy combination medal or something like that. And a couple of days later, he was at the Pentagon and offed himself. I'll never forget that. Mike Borda. I never would have known who he was, chief of naval operations.
When was that? That was a long time ago, right?
It was in the 90s. It's in the 90s,
Yeah,
if I recall
okay,
correctly.
yeah.
In fact, let me look it up. It was Mike Borda. It was back in the 1990s, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just one device on a medal he probably actually earned, but just wearing a device indicating he had a valor or combat device, I guess in the Navy they call it, right?
Yeah, 1996. Yeah.
Yeah.
May of 1996. Yeah, he died by shooting himself in the chest after leaving notes reported to contain expressive concern that he had tarnished the reputation of the Navy following a media investigation into the legitimacy of having worn on his uniform 2 service medals with bronze V devices, which indicates the awards were for acts of valor. The V devices are by regulation only to be awarded to personnel performing act of valor in actual combat. Borda had not served in combat. So Borda removed the 2 medal devices uniform almost a year before he died. It was generally perceived as having made a good faith effort in believing he was authorized to wear the devices. Yeah, but he killed himself. Yeah, so shame.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
56 years old.
Yeah, I mean, but some people, man, they take it serious, and they get caught doing something like that. It's like their honor is tarnished. Yeah, I get it.
That thing still sticks with me. I mean, I would never forget the guy's name because it's just bizarre.
Right.
It was weird.
Yeah.
So.
And I saw a guy, and this is locally. I'm not going to get into specifics in case somebody's listening, but as honor guard, he would wear SFC, Sergeant First Class stripes, but had gotten out of the Army as a buck sergeant. But because he was the commander of the honor guard, he wore Sergeant First Class stripes. And I'm like, I question that. I'm like, why are you guys doing that? That wasn't your rank. Oh, I'm the commander of the honor guard. I'm like, that wasn't your rank though. And now I see him. He just wears the buck sergeant stripes. I'm like, you can still be the honor guard commander because it's a veterans organization. It doesn't matter your rank in the military.
Correct.
So don't wear a rank you didn't earn. I'm sorry.
Strangely, the Navy, for someone who offed himself, they created an award. The Admiral Jeremy M. Borda Award, the Navy's annual Board Award, was established and awarded in 2003. It recognized the Navy, military, or civilian. Call for nomination 2015 award indicated the award was intended for those who've made significant contributions towards Navy personnel readiness or through research analysis. Why would you name an award after someone that ended themselves? I mean, that's. I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak ill of the man, but that's not an honorable way to end your service. And he was the chief of naval operations when he did it.
And the manner in which he did it, out of being disgraced on, like you said, wearing 2 V devices. I'm like, you shouldn't create an award for that. Now, if somebody did something great for the Navy who ended up killing themselves for some other reason, I could see perhaps what committing.
Right. I mean, look, if someone who had PTSD or couldn't deal with trauma,
absolutely, I'll give you that.
That's different. But this is a person who never served in combat, was accused of tarnishing and miswearing uniforms.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to be the hour. We'll talk about more of this at the top of in the next hour. Stay tight for the news, and we'll be back for the second hour shortly.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Mike Tabusky. It's officially the new year in the United Kingdom, with thousands of revelers in the last hour ringing in 2026 along the banks of the Thames, watching a fireworks display in a very chilly London. The Justice Department is aiming to have hundreds of lawyers dig through its massive collection of Epstein files before they're released. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy has the latest.
As it reviews and processes millions of pages of documents, the Justice Department is now seeking to enlist 400 DOJ attorneys, including federal prosecutors in New York and Florida. Sources say the review is expected to take much of January and that the next release of Epstein-related documents is not likely until the end of the month. It remains unclear why the department is only now claiming it's discovered more than 5 million pages that may relate to Jeffrey Epstein.
And the U.S. Coast Guard confirms that a search and rescue operation is underway after last night's military strikes on alleged drug smugglers. This is ABC News. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution is going digital only, and today was the last day you could pick up a paper copy.
As the trucks arrive delivering thousands of crisp newspapers, dozens of carriers begin folding and bagging, including veteran paper carrier Kevin Ray, who says there's an art to this work.
Fold it into thirds, and then the top side of the paper, that's what you put into the sleeve.
But after today, Ray will only be putting national papers into the sleeve. The end of the print version of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution means carriers will continue smaller routes for the remaining national subscribers. The paper has been in print for 157 years. Jonathan O'Brien, ABC News, Atlanta.
Britain's Queen Camilla has detailed for the first time publicly an incident in the 1960s when she fended off a man that attacked her on a train when she was a teenager. Camilla says speaking out is one way she can use her royal platform to shine a light on the epidemic of violence against women. I'm Mike Dubusky, ABC News.
CVS Health supports people in the moments that matter, from picking up a prescription to connecting care. With nearly 5 million daily interactions and serving 185 million consumers and 1.5 million healthcare professionals, CVS Health holds a trusted place in healthcare. By simplifying care and improving health, we're helping people get the care they need. Learn more at cvshealth.com/investor day.
You still thinking job change in the new year? Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy. IT? Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI. That's what I did. Really? How? Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up. Sweet. Are classes online or on campus? Both. Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu, an Elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
The only thing we have to say is one small step for man.
And the Boston Red Sox.
This is WSMN's Life for Today for December 31st. Happening on this day in 1946, President Truman proclaims World War II over. In 1999, control of the Panama Canal reverts to Panama. Born on this day in 1937, actor Anthony Hopkins. In 1943, John Denver. Dying on this day in 1985, Ricky Nelson in a plane crash at 45. And in 2021, Betty White. She was 99. And finally, on this day in 1976, from the Waldorf Astoria, Guy Lombardo performs Old Lang Syne live for the last time. And that's WSMN's Life for Today for December 31st. I'm Phil King.
Hi, Nashua. I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to and all that you deserve. Nashua, don't get fooled again this year. Call Perry Cataldo at 603-461-5550. That's 603-461-5550. Or visit me online at cbsnh.com. That's cbsnh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
The views. We're back, folks. Memorials of Distinction, Gate City Monuments. Always love to hear that one as we cue in for this program for the second hour. Welcome back. We were talking about Admiral Mike Borda. You know, the Admiral Zumwalt was commander, authorized those V devices during Vietnam, and there was conflicting advice and information. The Navy changed rules back and forth, and he said he wore them in good faith. And then after he died, they took the letters from Zumwalt, who's still alive, and then they looked at them, and the Navy actually went back initially and gave those veto ices back to Board as military record. But then one of his sons, who also served in uniform, requested a review a few years after that. And when they reviewed it, then they struck him off his record. So very conflicting. What a shame that he ended his life. But had he not done that, when he died in 1996, he was 61, or 56, 56. So he'd be about 90 now. Speaking of nonagenarians, the Oracle of Omaha is 95, and today was his last day as the chairman of Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett is finally retiring at the age of 95.
Amazing. Yeah. What a career that guy's made, and he did it honestly. He didn't go into, what do you call it? He didn't go to Wall Street to speculate or anything like that. He didn't gamble with other people's money. He made a lot of people very wealthy. He did it in good faith, and I think he should be commended. I think.
He's a brilliant businessman, smart guy. He knows value when he sees it, and he has a long-term look. And obviously, living to be 95, long-term was the right idea for him.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But I did take exception to him a few years ago when he talked this nonsense about it's not fair that I pay less in taxes than my secretary does. That's nonsense. You pay tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. She pays about $30,000 in taxes. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. What I said at the time when he said that, I said that's a pander because he knows the tax code is not going to change to hurt him. So he can say that it does nothing. It doesn't hurt him in any way. It's just a pander to keep people off his back because it was during the time of cancel culture, I believe he did that.
Right. But what it did is it polluted the argument and the sport of the argument.
I agree.
People the populists actually believe the nonsense. The bottom line is if you're going to have an income tax, just have a flat 10% tax. That's fair. Everybody pays 10%.
Right.
No exceptions, no deductions, it's just 10%. Boom, you're done.
Right. And you can say, well, the 10% doesn't hurt this person as much as it does the other person. The point of taxes is not to hurt people or to penalize anybody. That's not the point of taxes. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought that the 14th Amendment included the Equal Protection Clause. How are some people better than others just because they make more money? That's not fair.
Right.
If everyone's the same, if we all get the same, then we should all be taxed at the same rate. Simple as that.
The left, I call the left's fair share argument a flawed fair share argument because they get to decide what's fair of your money versus what's Go ahead,
Have
John.
you read the 16th Amendment? Congress shall simply put in the way of I can only have I can't say I can only paraphrase. I can't say it exactly word for word, but something to the effect of Congress shall lay and collect taxes without census and enumeration, meaning, hey, blank check everybody. We can do what the heck we want.
Yeah. Well, but I go back to the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. We're all equal under the law, except we're not. We're not. That's why we've had racist legislation called affirmative action for decades that had to be struck down, giving people unfair advantage based on skin pigmentation. You know what? That affirmative action applied to people who came here from Nigeria in 1990. They would get preferential hiring and preferential university admission, even though they had nothing to do with events in this country, all based on skin pigmentation. That is the very definition of racism, and the government sanctioned racism, which has harmed Americans for decades. If you want to right the wrongs of the past, then you ensure that successful or adequate amount of funding goes into education, and then you ensure a level playing field so that nobody's cheating against people based on their ethnicity. That's what you do. You don't give artificial advantage to people. That is morally bankrupt. And imagine South Africa where they give the majority those benefits. The majority get included and the minority get excluded because they're politically powerless. It's shocking, but it's what's happening today.
Right. Yeah, you can't claim to be a free society if your minority population doesn't have the same rights as the majority. Everybody should be able to exercise the same rights across the board. Yeah, you may be out of power politically, but guess what? You're still protected under law, which is what makes our country so great, even though we have a lot of problems as well.
Everyone should be hired on one basis only. Merit.
There you go.
Merit. Everyone should get opportunity education on one basis only, merit. We don't become a more powerful country by bringing people who aren't qualified into education programs and carrying them along to be mediocre products and go into the workforce with substandard skills. That is not, I don't want the orthopedic surgeon cutting my thigh bone apart and jamming a piece of titanium in there for hip replacement and puts it in backwards because he's dumb as a box of rocks. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want the guy who came in first in their class and has the skills and has done this 255 times and knows what they're doing and make sure they don't walk around like Quasimodo. So I'm at the same height on both legs.
Right. Well, you know what you call the person who graduated last in his medical school class, right?
A lawyer?
Doctor. Sorry.
No, a doctor. That's right. They're all called doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, can you imagine in South Africa, guys, not to spend too much time in South Africa, but in South Africa, in order to graduate and be qualified for university, they've lowered the standards for, you have multiple subjects called matriculation, they call it, exit high school exam. And you have multiple subjects in your first language, because there's a dozen official languages. In your first language, you only have to score 40%. So you can imagine graduating from high school only being 40% proficient in the first language that you grew up speaking. That's insane. And then many subjects, you can get like 2 or 3 subjects where you get 30% is considered a passing grade. 30%. So that's the engineer I want building the bridge, and I'm going to drive across. Yeah. Or that's the surgeon I want.
You stop. You walk out to the middle and jump up and down. I think it's good. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's what this equity nonsense leads to. That's why DEI is so corrosive. And if nothing else, 2025 was the exposure and the expulsion of DEI from federal service. Thank goodness for that, John.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I should ask, any resolutions for anybody? I'm not a big resolution person, but any resolutions, John or Colonel?
Sure. I intend to overthrow a small African country and install myself as a benign dictator this year.
The banana republic of Wyatt.
Remotely, of course. Yeah.
Wyatt land. Chrislandia.
Yeah, right. You're gonna have all these medals and stuff. You're gonna show up at the UN. Yeah.
You think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding? Hey, look, Israel just recognized Somaliland, so I mean, why not? They can recognize Chrislandia.
Chrislandia. Yeah, of course.
He'll be applying for U.S. aid here in a year or two. And
now the USAID is gone, so there's nowhere to apply.
Oh, darn it.
We need to get rid of the Federal Department of Education next. That's got to go, I think.
Yeah, because educational standards have stagnated and regressed since that thing was created.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
It's one of the least successful ideas ever. Yeah. Everything has gone backwards.
Send it back to the states and the local areas. That's what I believe.
Well, I agree 100%. It should be local control, but yeah. No, so I guess John hasn't told us what his resolution is.
I don't really make New Year's resolutions. I figure every day is a day for a resolution. So I just got to why make claims of something other than to claim this is going to be my year? But why make claims of something and watch it just deteriorate a month in, And I watch everybody do this, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds here, and they end up gaining weight. So why waste your time? Mm-hmm. So make a resolution every day, right? Because every day should be a day of self-betterment anyway. So,
well, John, you've been more direct. That's why I gave a sarcastic answer, because I don't do New Year's resolutions for the same reason. I make plans and I try to adhere to them, adjust them if the circumstances change. And my long-term plan, I haven't revealed it, but what I hope to accomplish in 2025, and we'll see if I can get there. In 2026, 2025, in so many ways, has been an epic and groundbreaking year for me in the broadcasting business, aside from this program, where my viewership has grown exponentially. I mean, in 4.5 years of broadcasting, I had between 2 different outlets, maybe 5 or 6 million views. And on my main program this year, I've had 33 million views, and I've gained over about 100,000 subscribers on the one. It's been quite a wild ride this year. And I'm looking forward to hopefully even better year in 2026, because I don't think geopolitics is going to get any easier. And that's what I report on.
No, absolutely. I think the world's going to be just as tumultuous next year as it is this year, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm really grasping onto this. Now you got me talking about this Chrislandia thing. I'm already thinking about the boundaries and what I want and don't want. So,
if you can't find a spot of land, can you buy an old cruise ship and just sail it out into international waters?
Just buy an island in the Caribbean, man.
Yeah.
Or off the coast of Finland. There's a lot of islands there, and declare autonomy. And I'll man it with hunting rifles, and and we'll do expulsion of all non-Chrislandia residents. No foreign nationals.
Cruise ship idea. If somebody wants to declare war or something, you just relocate.
Yeah, but you got to refuel somewhere. So if you got bad relations, that could be a problem.
Yeah,
I'll outfit it with sails. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use wind energy.
Did you see the Australian cruise ship that ran aground in the Pacific? They hit a coral reef, and it's just not a good thing.
No,
man, not
terrible.
good.
Didn't they have one a couple years ago when was offshore of Italy or something?
Coastal Concordia.
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that was not the Australian though, but yeah, that thing. Oof, there were deaths in that.
Yeah, that was
big
bad.
time. Yeah, and that thing laid on its side for months and months. They had to engineer things to actually turn it upright to take it and basically break it up.
They basically invented engineering tools just to get it up because they'd never dealt with something like that.
Somebody's
Pretty
not sailing a ship ever again.
Well, it's kind of like the captain of the Exxon Valdez. I don't think he's ever sailed a ship again after that either.
Hey, look, you're going to have inhabitants on your island because James here says Chrislandia sounds better than South Africa. So you're going to have inhabitants. You already got them lining up. You just got to get the property.
We just got to get the right place. We got to make sure it's an island that's got plenty of water on it, so we don't have any issues with that, and have something unique, that makes us.
Right.
I think the ideal place for me to have Chrislandia would be on off the west coast of Finland, in the Gulf of Bothnia. I think that's a great place for it. The weather is okay. The islands are beautiful. There's resources there. We're next to industrialized nations and close on major shipping routes, and so Russia's far enough away they won't threaten Chrislandia. And I think it'll be pretty exciting stuff. I mean, we'll welcome people who are Viking descent, and the rest of you can pound sand.
That's what I was going to ask. What's the immigration policy of Chrislandia?
We just found out, I think.
What type of government is it?
It's not about skin color. You just have to be a Viking descent somewhere.
I did say, that's right. You can be brown, if you've got Vikings in your ancestry. Where it's about a cultural affiliation and DNA. No, it's so it will be a benign dictatorship. So I won't have a parliament. That's just a waste of my time. I will have a cabinet, but I can sack him at any time. So it'll work out pretty well.
There you go. The cabinet can basically run day-to-day operations and
exactly run it like a corporation. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then my plan is to relinquish control after 10 years and turn over to a democratic government once it's established and producing an income, and we have border policies in place. And we have lots of Danish descent, blue-eyed, blonde-haired babes running around. It'll just be happy.
So you're
How
going to
you
do
doing? How you doing? Did you get? I'm the ruler.
So I assume you're going to do this off the North American continent, so you don't hear Trump going, "Hey, this Chrislandia sounds kind of nice. I think we might have to make that our 51st state."
Well, there is an upside if we agree to annexation by the United States. Then we become a state with just a few thousand residents. If that's the case, we'd want an island somewhere near Saint Pierre and Miquelon, the French territory that's the only thing left in North America, just off the coast of Canada. And then we could, we could always tell the Canadians, your mother smelled like a hamster, and your father's, your mother was a hamster, and your father smelled of elderberries. Yeah, your mother was a hamster. I fought in your general direction. Silly Englishman, be gone.
Watery Tarts dispensing sword from. I love that.
Silly Canadians, be gone. I only want to talk to the Quebecois. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we would have a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah. Great movie.
It was a great movie. Monty Python. Those guys are hilarious, man. Anyway, but there you have it. I mean, so that would be the two destinations. But I mean, if we're off the coast of Finland, Finland's part of NATO now, so that kind of gives us defense umbrella, so. But I need a little bit of money to buy one of these islands, Now, the one problem with this is that global warming could be a problem there, John. I mean, after all, the Öland Islands off the west coast of Finland, which are 90% Swedish-speaking, weren't even above water 10,000 years ago. They only emerged when the glaciers retreated and the water level shrank.
Show me some place where the water levels have actually risen to be threatening. So I've seen people actually have arguments that, well, certain parts of America, the water levels did rise. I'm like, how does that happen? Water seeks its own level, right? So if it rises, it has to rise evenly, unless you get moon poles, tidal poles, and things like that. But that's different. So how does, say, Miami have increased levels of rise, but North Carolina doesn't? It's just, but they'll come up with things like this, and well, did you know what we call that? We call that flooding. It's not because the sea level rises; it's for other reasons, like I don't know, hurricane surge or
change
in the land,
any number of things that could cause that obviously.
Occasionally, the water level in my jacuzzi does rise. There's a place I can tell you about, but there actually is a place where the water level is rising, but that's because it was built below sea level, and that would be New Orleans.
Only like 8 feet below sea level, right?
It is definitely below sea level, and that's one of the problems. They've got to build these huge levees to keep Lake Pontchartrain, which is actually higher than New Orleans now. And if nature was allowed to do its thing, New Orleans would be flooded by Lake Pontchartrain. Lake Pontchartrain would become a puddle because most of the water would flow into New Orleans. It would change the entire biosphere there,
So
without the humans.
when you go to the French Quarter, they actually got over there by the river, the water. I don't know. I don't think it's the river. I think that's the ocean or whatever it is, the Gulf. Rather, you actually walk up a flight of stairs to get to the level of the water. It's like
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
pretty deep down in there.
I think you're referring to the Gulf of America.
Yeah, the Gulf of America. I'm sitting over here saying the river. There's no river there. Yeah, the river already runs out. So yeah. Mhm. So yeah, no, I've been there. It was a lot of fun. They had a lot of shows and stuff like that, acts and things like that over there. And yeah, I'm standing there looking down there, going, "Wow, that's kind of deep down in there. If it was to flood over, they'd be swimming."
Pretty creepy when you think about it. That's not something I'd want to. That's I have made sure that I am at a level, a space where no matter how much of the global ice sheets melt, the water levels won't reach me.
Right. You have other problems at that point, though.
I'm good to go.
It's like somebody said, when you see the iceberg, you only see the tip of the iceberg, which means it's already submerged. So if it melts, what's going to rise? It's already in there.
I don't know. Hey guys, we talk about Greenland and Trump and wanting to buy Greenland or acquire Greenland, but he's just pressuring Denmark. But there is something fascinating happening out in the Western Rockies in Canada. Did you see that Alberta is about to vote for independence?
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah.
What's the date on that?
They haven't set the date, but apparently they've met the threshold. At least that's what they're talking about. So Alberta may be declaring independence, and of course, the argument is that they want to become a state. Now the Democrats have wanted to add states for ages, like Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. But this would be fascinating if Alberta. Right. I'd love to see Alberta as an independent nation. I would love to go visit the nation of Alberta. That would be so cool.
But you're right. They have talked about taking on statehood with the U.S. I don't know if they can do that directly or not, because I thought there was a process about becoming a territory first. Or
no, you don't have to be a territory. Texas was an independent republic, and it became a state. So you have to be a territory.
This is true.
And I imagine if Congress just votes on it or changes a couple quick laws, they can bring them into the union, no problem.
Well, they probably would have to vote on it anyway, right, to accept it. It's kind of like when
I would bring them right in.
Well, you got the Greater Idaho expansion people have been working on, where a number of counties and stuff in Oregon and Washington and even California and parts of Wyoming, I think, want to become part of Idaho. But in order for them to secede their states, they have to get U.S. congressional approval.
Well, I would love to see Alberta as an independent country. And then, of course, we'll hear Ottawa start singing Chicago songs. It's hard for me to say I'm sorry. I just want you to know. After all that we've been through. Oh, Chicago, man. They'll be singing that. No, look, I'll tell you what, that would be a major problem for Canada if Alberta left, because the people in British Columbia would have to go north and then go east and then go south to get around it, because it takes a big chunk out. Canada would still have contiguous territory, but it would have this one big chunk taken out of the western portion. People would have to go up, over, and down to stay in Canada, or they'd have to transit through. And I was going to say, that's right. If I was the Albertans, I'd put a big toll road there so the Canadians would have to pay.
There's a lot of western provinces beside Alberta that's considering this now.
Saskatchewan, I think, also talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't be doing the right thing if you have this many provinces wanting to secede from your country. Something's wrong.
The irony is that for 50 years, the Quebecois wanted to secede. They never pulled off. But now this is a much more serious issue with Alberta. But the problem is that Alberta is full of, people who can walk and chew gum, unlike Ottawa.
No, they can. Anyway. They only know how to screw other people over and chew gum in Ottawa.
If Alberta had islands, I might set Chris Landy up there, but there's no islands. So I want to have my own, contiguous borders and not have any neighbors.
So. Right. There you go. What kind of Navy are you going to have? Just like a small little Coast Guard or something? Or
yeah, well, if it's up in that area, I'll need some icebreakers. Maybe I can get one of those new deals between the Finns and the Canadians, the Americans. They're building icebreakers in, of all places, Louisiana.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Isn't that ironic? They're building icebreakers in Louisiana. Yeah, no. It'd be a small Coast Guard. We wouldn't need a Navy. We'd make a trade deal with the Trump administration, and we'd be friends with the Trump administration, and whoever comes after that.
He's going to look for American protections.
Exactly, but I'll offer something in return. Any extradition of dirtbags. Any dirtbags come our way, we'll be happy to send them back where they came from.
Isn't there an island between Alaska and Russia somewhere?
Little Diomede and Big Diomede.
The Aleutians?
Yeah, Aleutian Islands, yeah. You got Big Diomede, Little Diomede, where you can stand on one and see the other. So, which is another day in another country. It's kind of funny.
I think that's when somebody once said they can see Russia from their backyard.
I can see Russia from my house. Yeah. Sarah Palin.
Actually, she didn't really say that, and actually, the sentiment is you can see Russia from Alaska was the point,
right?
Yep.
Which is what she was saying. She wasn't saying from my house, none of that nonsense. But
Yeah.
SNL just mocked the heck out of her, which she didn't do herself any favors as well.
No, she didn't. But then John McCain didn't do himself any favors either. He was leading after the Republican convention. Then he goes, "I'm going to Washington to sort out this subprime mess," and Obama was also
he should have stayed away from it. He should have stayed.
No, but Obama also stopped his travel and went to DC, but he didn't run his mouth. So when the Senate didn't resolve the problem, McCain looked like a fool. And so
exactly, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'll bet you that the ballot stuffing probably took place as early as 2008. It wasn't just in 2016.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, they've been complaining about that forever and a day. Ever as far back as I can remember, they complained about ballot stuff and stuffing and cheating elections, and it's always been a complaint. But it's funny when their team won in the ballot stuffing, they suddenly it was the most honest and fair election.
Well, 2020, right?
Well, it's no different than the nonsense about a so-called insurrection on January 6th, when all that was happening was members of the Republican Party were questioning the vote totals in certain states, which is what Democrats did in 2000, 2004, and 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And the only difference is it was only in 2004 that someone in the House and someone in the Senate actually both did it, which triggered an investigation, a discussion by Congress. When a Republican or the Democrat in California, one of the senators was a boxer, I can't remember.
Barbara Boxer, I
think it was Boxer, and then it was a Democratic black woman from Ohio in the House. Both raised the objection, therefore it had to be investigated. It was utter nonsense. There was no fraud going on in Ohio.
Right.
They were just trying to overthrow the election in 2004, and there was no need because Bush destroyed his opponent.
Oh, big time.
That was Swift Boat Carey, wasn't it? 2004.
Yeah, Swift Boat Carey. Yeah, absolutely. When people he served with called him out, and said they wouldn't vote for him, that tells me a lot.
It does indeed. But John Kerry, he's a little weasel. But there's lots of little weasels out there. And the irony is that he married Teresa Heinz Kerry, who is an African American.
All that money, he grifted her.
Did you know that she's an African American?
Right, yeah, that's true. She is technically
because she was born in Angola or Mozambique, and to Portuguese colonizers. So Teresa Heinz Kerry, they inherited because she married John Heinz, and he died, and she inherited all that Heinz money, and then they sold off Heinz to a Brazilian company. It's not even American anymore. So you buy Heinz ketchup, it's not even American. It's owned by Brazilians. Most people don't even know that. I know that because I used to be a shareholder. I was not happy about that decision.
Yeah, he took full advantage of that family, for crying out loud. And you think about it, John Heinz was his friend in the Senate for years, and then he marries the widow of his best friend. Like, come on, man, that's weird.
That's not strange, is it?
Very weird. And I know it happens, but to me, it's very strange, honestly.
So, guys, Todd, what do you think is going to happen with the Trumpster this year? Is he going to go from strength to strength? Going to keep up the pressure? Do you think he'll be successful in ending the conflict in Ukraine finally?
Oh, that's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be up to Putin to try to find a way to save face and walk away from that. That's going to be up to him. Trump, I think, is going to pretty much do everything he can. It's going to be up to Putin to say enough.
Did Zelensky concede to giving up lands to Putin?
Not yet, but I think he said that we're close on a lot of things, though. He did.
Yeah. So he's kind of hinting it.
Yeah, he did say that we're close on a lot of things, but I don't think that's one of them.
Well, that's kind of a non-negotiable that's actually negotiable.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
They've been saying non-negotiable for a long time, but the reality is that that's negotiable. They are going to have to give up territory. There's no way that this thing ends with Russia not keeping some territory.
Yeah, there's everything.
Well, you can't expect Russia to be holding the upper hand on this one and say, "Oh, I'll just give it all back," and it was all for nothing.
They can't.
They're going to be like, "Look, we got the advantage. We're ahead on this. We're not giving up anything."
If Putin walks away from that, giving most everything back or everything back, he'll be assassinated pretty quickly, I think, because he's weak at that point.
Do you guys feel like maybe the U.S. did a little bit of a disservice to Ukraine, considering we convinced them to give up nuclear armaments in 1997, if I'm not mistaken, and we guaranteed them, or we assured them, we gave them assurances. Although I don't think we detailed those assurances, but I'm kind of thinking, and so did Russia, by the way. So correct. They gave up nuclear armaments back to Russia. and then turned around and took the assurances from England, the US, Russia, and I think Germany, and maybe some other countries. And so when the proverbial crap hits the fan, everybody's kind of like, oh, yeah, we did give you insurances, but good luck with that war.
Yeah,
you are correct. Ukraine surrendered all of the nuclear weapons and missiles that were in their territory on a guarantee from Russia and the United States to protect their sovereignty, which is ironic because Russia violated it.
Yes, they
of course, multiple times.
but we did not ever take any action. Remember, of course, Barack Obama making his famous line in the sand nonsense
Right.
about Crimea. But Crimea's gone, much like the Chibok girls in Nigeria, many of whom have never been returned. They were sold off into sexual slavery. Many of those girls are dead now. Others remain slaves. Others remain the wives of Muslims, even though they're Christians, living in horrible conditions. And most of those girls have never been seen again. But of course, Michelle My Belle Obama, there's a tribute to Rush Limbaugh. Michelle My Belle Obama, made a big stink about it. She got a lot of famous. We care about the Chibok girls. She's too busy collecting the Netflix dollars now. She didn't care about Chibok girls.
Right.
Forgotten completely about them. And in fact, you'd think that she would come out and support Donald Trump for trying to protect Christians in Nigeria. But she's said a darn thing about it because she's a fraud.
Well, I remember
Big Mike is a fraud.
I was going to say he is a fraud.
Whenever they were kidnapped, didn't they just go online and post pictures with holding up signs? That was it. They held up signs. Bring back our girls.
Bring back our girls. That's right.
Yeah, and that was it. And that was it. Nothing else happened.
And she was considered a great humanitarian for that nonsense.
Oh, I know. She should get the Nobel Prize. Yeah, come on.
It's no different than, if you remember this Kony in 2012. That was a campaign started by some guy to capture Joseph Kony from Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda or Central African Republic. It's 2025. Kony in 2012 was nothing. He's never been captured. We don't even know if he's still alive.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
that's what happens. So, folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives on WSMN. 1590 AM, 95.3 on your FM dial every Wednesday night with my co-host John Grosvenor in the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire. Todd McKinley, retired Sergeant First Class Todd McKinley, our NCO that we trust in East Tennessee, and I'm Colonel Chris Wyatt here, retired in Central Pennsylvania. We're bringing you your weekly dose, your immunization, your injection, your protection against disinformation, misinformation, propaganda, hysteria, and democratic madness. How's that, Todd?
That's it. Cuckoo. I love it. So the question to you though is President Trump, like you said, going from strength to strength next year? What are some wins you think he's going to be able to pick up early on?
All right, this is a projection. The U.S. economy will continue to grow in 2026. It will startle people. I can't predict that the deficit will narrow or shrink. I think it will, but it depends if we ever get a budget passed. I really can't say because they might come up with a crazy budget and just come with increased spending. Who knows what Congress is up to?
That's not on Trump, right?
Right. That's why I say I can't make that prediction, but I can't predict the economy will continue to grow. The tariffs will begin to negotiate it down for countries that are operating in good faith. Markets for U.S. goods and services will expand. Places we've been excluded from or had quotas or punitive tariffs against us. I don't know if the Republicans will retain the House. They will retain the Senate, in my view. But I think they can retain the House and grow it. But they have to get out there and get the message out that the reason you're paying $9 for eggs, which isn't the case anymore, I'm just making a point here. $9 for eggs is not because of Donald Trump. It's because of Joe Biden. It takes time, and we don't want, you can't have prices collapse overnight. That's a depression. If there's no demand for things, prices collapse, people get fired, there's no jobs, production stops because no one's buying goods and services. So people haven't thought that through. They're complaining about prices, but you don't want a massive decline in prices because it leads to depression, and depression is not good. So the best you can hope for is that improved efficiency and efficacy in workforces and better productivity leads to lower costs for businesses. And as a consequence of improved productivity, they can lower the cost of goods and services and give you benefit there. And the other piece is technological advancement. Every time we see an advancement in technology, prices come down. You see what a computer costs today, a laptop just for a few $100s that's more powerful than the Apollo 13 space program when you think about that. And just a few years ago, that same laptop was $2,800. Now you can get it for $300 or $400 because the technology continues to improve and you get more efficiency and efficacy. So I think the economy will expand. I think the job market will begin to pick up by spring, not immediately, but by spring. It will rebound because the private sector begins to create jobs as the trillions of dollars investment into factories and into businesses begins to pour into America. It's already started, but it will begin to reach a higher level in 2026. So I anticipate that unemployment will go back down at some point. It might continue to climb through the wintertime because hundreds of thousands of federal employees no longer have jobs. So the government's not creating jobs. We need the private sector to do that. And it's going to take a little bit of time for that to pick up. So I also anticipate personal wealth will increase because another tax cut, and that's going to be good for the economy and for Americans. I also anticipate another 2 to 5 million criminal alien invaders will be kicked out or will leave the country voluntarily in the coming year. We're setting a record now. 2 million have left of their own volition. And I think that's fantastic stuff. So I think that's what's going to happen in the year. Trump will also continue to bomb the snot out of places like Yemen and of course Iran and Venezuela and Iran. People keep asking, we're going to go to war. I don't think we're going to go to war in Venezuela, but one thing's for sure, we're not going to tolerate these sanctioned ships illicitly shipping oil to and from Iran. That's coming to an end. So yeah, I think it'll be an exciting year. Lots happening. I'm not worried about a health scare for Trump yet, but that's a possibility. The guy will be 80. And there's a possibility something like that could happen, in office. So J.D. Vance be ready to take over the realms of control, but the reins of control, I should say. But I think that's the main things that are going to happen this year, and we'll see. Hopefully the dollar will rebound. It's much weaker than it was. The dollar's lost about 9% of its value this year against the basket of major currencies, which is kind of weird because interest rates have come down. That would explain why there's less interest in the dollar. But at the same time, the economy is growing, and it's growing like gangbusters. And capital investment is pouring into America. And the benefits of that $20 trillion investment, which continues to grow, will only manifest by mid-year. We'll really start to see those benefits. Hopefully all this kicks in time for voters to notice that it's Trump who brought them prosperity and brought us back from the brink. And instead of listening to propaganda and the fake stream media, maybe they'll listen to the truth. And if that's the case, then the Republicans will retain the House and increase their majority. But who knows? There's all kinds of nonsense going on in state legislatures to alter voting districts to give more Democrats and more Republicans a chance to win. So that's hard to predict as well. But that's kind of my thoughts on where we're going to go in 2026. Do you disagree with any of that, Todd?
No, that's it. I was just wondering, where do we go with the House? And you explained it right there. If they do XYZ, they'll retain the House, or we should retain the House. Republicans, my meaning. Yeah, no, I think we should be able to retain it. And people forget that in almost every midterm election after a presidency has been won, the party in power loses control of the House or the Senate or both. Right.
They certainly lose their march. It's unusual to retain control in both branches of the legislature, just because of the nature.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you think that's because voters see that as a form of balance.
No, I mean I think that's nonsense. I don't think people say that all the time. Oh, we want this, we want that. I'm going to vote for these guys.
Yeah.
Just so that, that's a theory that doesn't carry any weight in my view.
Yeah.
There's no real empirical data to support that I've seen. I think it's a nice talking point after an election. Oh, that's why they did it. But I don't think people don't go in and vote. People go in to vote straight party line.
Yeah.
People go in to vote for candidates that inspire them. Look, a lot of union people voted for Trump and never voted Republican in their life this last time because Trump inspired them. And also Kamala Harris made them scared to death. And Tampon Timmy really made them scared. So, I mean, I really don't think that's a factor, John. What about you, Todd? Do you think that's a factor?
I think a lot of everyday Americans don't pay attention to the big picture, global politics, anything like that. It's their wallet, it's their bank account, and if this person promises me more things and more prosperity, and the people that are in there aren't really delivering, they go the other way. I think that's how a lot of people vote, and they don't think in the terms of maybe Republican, Democrat. A lot of people don't. I don't think
money is definitely a driving force.
Right? Yeah, I think.
Self-interest. It comes down to that.
Yeah,
People vote on a single issue.
Many millions of people vote that way.
Look at these pink-haired feminists.
They vote against you.
Pink-haired feminists and lesbians who make the issue about choice. But what choice are lesbians having? You're not having kids, ostensibly, right? I mean, it just doesn't work. Female and female. That's not how nature works.
Oh, they manage. I've seen that.
I know they get donors and anyway. But the point is that those people vote on a single issue. They'll vote solely on the abortion issue, and they'll vote against Trump because that's their perception.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this actually, if you're right to lifer, this was a fantastic year. 10 states banned abortions this year in almost every case. That's a huge win for right to lifers, but that's got the pro-abortion, pro-infanticide crowd losing their minds. Yep.
Yeah, that definitely will work against
watching the
Republicans.
Watching ACLU commercials, they come on TV on a regular, and it's like they're talking about the Republicans are banning your abortion rights. It's like, you're an American Civil Liberties Union. Why are you against Americans being born? I don't understand that. Why are you against civil liberties?
Well, it's not against them being born. But life begins conception, and
Right.
an abortion is the termination of an American citizen's life.
Inalienable right. Life is the first thing. Why are you against that? You know,
If the government doesn't have the right to have the death penalty, why should a private individual? What's their judgment better than the government? To have the right for that's a death sentence because someone is inconvenient or you didn't plan on it. No, I'm sorry. That's just morally wrong. There are measures to prevent that from happening. So anyway. But then they always come with it. What about rape and incest? It's not germane. That's less than a quarter of 1%.
What aboutism? What about
Exactly.
Small,
we kind of made that compromise, didn't we? When it comes to funding and stuff for abortion, federal funding is that if it's rape, incest, or mother's health, then we could use federal funding. Otherwise, no.
Which is a fraction of a percent of all,
of all these cases that actually occur. And here's the thing that really drives me nuts. Some people catch on to this, but what surprised me why the Black community isn't up in arms. You know that 40% of abortions are to mothers whose the father is Black. And that includes Black women and others, and some whites. But 40% of abortions are Black children. Yeah. But Black Americans make up 11.5%, and more specifically, Black women make up just 6.5% of the population.
Right, and African Americans are no longer the majority minority.
Now, Hispanics passed some years ago.
I just got to say this. I got to say that can't be true, Chris. There's no way that can be true because then we wouldn't be racist by being against abortion.
Well, it is true what I said.
I know it is. I'm being a wise guy here, but
I know being a wise guy.
You're left over here calling us racist all the time, and we're over here going supporting.
You stand out in front of an abortion clinic and say, "Hey, let's not kill kids. Let's not kill Black babies." They'll call you a racist because you're violating the Black woman who's going in there, or the white woman going in there. It's like, no, we want the person that can't defend for themselves at all to be able to be born, get them to a situation where they can defend themselves, for themselves, or
to make better choices, right? Like the argument somebody went to pose to me on social media. She says, well, sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes people get drunk and so a woman accidentally gets pregnant. I'm like, you know what? Sometimes people get drunk and they drive cars and other people get killed for it too. They get to go to jail for that. What argument are you making here?
Sometimes people forget to pay their taxes and they go to jail for that. There are consequences to actions or inaction. Absolutely. And, if you happen to get knocked up because you got drunk, well, then you've got a responsibility. So
exactly.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
and so does the person who knocked you up.
Consequence-free society. Freedom and liberty. There's consequences out there for your own actions and your own choices and your own words too. Even though we have freedom of speech, you fire in the crowded theater, people rush out and kill themselves, hurt themselves. You're responsible for that. So anyway.
Right. Well, and if you slander a person, not a public figure, but you slander a person, there are consequences. Free speech is free, but it doesn't come without consequences.
You don't have reckless free speech,
Right.
It's like you can't cause harm to people. You can't use free speech to cause harm to other people. Therefore, it's not speech anymore. It's weaponizing.
That's right. You weaponize. That's right. So it's no longer a right. Now you've impinged on someone else's rights. You don't have the right to impinge on other people's rights. No. That's what gets lost on people. The other thing that gets lost on people is that the Constitution protects our rights from abridgment by the government, but not by companies and not by other people. You joined a private organization like a veterans organization, you have to adhere to their rules. Like you kicked out. But what about my free speech? Well, you disparage veterans. We don't want you in our club. Hit the road, Jack. Yeah, but I have right free speech. You do, but there are consequences to it.
Yeah, I've had people in meetings try to, stand up and just grandstand on an issue. And they say, well, I have freedom of speech. It's like, yeah, we have rules here within the organization, Robert's Rules of Order, and you're violating them. We have every right to kick you out of the meeting,
Well, and even that aside, the right to free speech is a protection against government overreach, not a protection against your neighbors telling you to shut up or people in your club telling you to go. Sit down, man. No, it's well, in fact, I've foolishly allowed people trying to be in good faith, trying to improve our veterans organization, allow people to get up there and get on their soapbox who are very disrespectful to board members and Vietnam veterans and me.
Yeah.
And they want to play that game. Well, from now on, they're going to get what the rules say: 5 minutes and shut up and sit down.
There you go. I was talking with our legislative chair last night, and we were talking about that, how people, they'll grandstand and say, well, you see how I talk to the commander? He thinks he has authority and power over me. It's like they think they're speaking truth to power in that situation. It's like, no, you're just being rude and disrespectful. What if the roles are reversed? You're the commander. Do you want anybody just to talk to you any old way? Just because you couldn't get away with it in the military and you can get away with it in, saying a veterans organization doesn't mean you should be out running your mouth to somebody just because you can get away with it. I mean, that's
the cheek and behavior of people I find shocking. I actually had someone tell me in a private conversation, I would never follow you in combat. And rather than just cold cock him and knock him out, which is what he deserved, but that's inappropriate. I just sat there and just stared at him like, are you serious? Thousands of people follow me in combat. What are you talking about? When
Yeah,
have you served in combat?
and you brought your people back home alive. You're not going to follow me. Come
Every
on.
single one of them.
Right.
I didn't lose anybody in combat in my career. Never happened.
Right.
Never happened. Thank God. I mean, that's beyond our control in some respects.
Oh, sure. In many cases.
But being well trained and prepared, and good leadership makes a big difference there. No, it's just the cheek of people really astounds me. And I didn't have a difficult time adjusting to civilian life after 36 years in the Army. You would think I might. I mean, that's
Right.
almost like my entire adult life. But I had no problem because of the nature of what I did with intelligence and counterintelligence and working in embassies and working in contract, all these different things I did. I was frequently wearing civilian clothes, frequently working with civilians, prime ministers, presidents, members of government, in industry. So I was accustomed to that. So that wasn't a hard change. The only thing I miss, Todd, is that when people ask me, what do you do? I'm a soldier. Well, I couldn't say that anymore because now I was retired. But the one thing I definitely have had a hard time with, and it's not really a hard time, it's just like I just shake my head, is the reprehensible behavior, the immorality of people who will lie to your face for anything. And they think that they're indignant thinking they're right, and they can be disrespectful to you and talk about you behind your back. I mean, for instance, and I don't touch money. I do the 50-50s now. We like tonight, before I left in just 37 minutes, we had a good crowd. And I was able to raise $222 for the 50-50 in 37 minutes. So that's going to be a big one tonight. Yeah, it was nice. But the point I'm making is I'm touching that money because I'm collecting for people, but someone else does it.
Right. But you're not doing the finances for the organization.
Right. I don't touch the money. I don't know the combination to the safe. I don't know the combination to the building. I can't even get in the building without one of the employees or one of the board officers, like the quartermaster who has to get in the building, open it for me. But have the audacity of people to say that I, with a top secret clearance and decades of responsibility running multi-billion-dollar programs, can count for every penny. Telling people, not accusing, but telling people, they steal, the board members steal. They're stealing money. It's the cheek of people who have no honor whatsoever. There's no honor here. Right. It's shameful. I have honor, and that's the reason why I find that's the one thing I'm having a hard time. Do you experience that as well, Todd? Is that something you experience with civilians? Because it shocks me. Now, that's not to say civilians don't have honor, but there are far too many of these people. They would be weeded out of the military and sent home in a heartbeat.
What you're getting at here, really,
for sure.
I think you're talking about a lack of discipline. People in society had discipline and structure within their lives. You were brought up with it. And a lot of that comes from your Christian raising, your Christian values and strengths. And I think we've gotten away from that. So nowadays people don't mind being dishonorable. They don't mind lacking integrity because it benefits them in some sort of way. It's almost like that jihadist that says, it's okay for me to lie to you because you're an infidel.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a point, but Todd, have you experienced this? Is it something you see?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, like I said, people love to speak truth to power. If they think you have some sort of position over them, they love to try to bring you down to their level. And it's like, listen, I'm not speaking to you like you're a subhuman. Just because I have a position of authority doesn't mean you should be talking to me that way. I'm here being respectful, fulfilling a role that everybody elected me to do. So don't sit there and say that I'm a liar, I'm a cheat, I'm taking from you, I'm stealing from you. That's simply not the case. I mean, and if you're going to make that allegation, let's prove it. Don't just throw it out there because you're impeding my reputation.
But that's been the history of this place. I was just surprised that somebody actually had the audacity to make that claim against me. I mean, but I get people who are local who got grievances against people that grew up and that sort of thing. But when you pour your heart and soul and give 30 to 40 hours a week for something you don't get paid to do and take this abuse from people, it's just shocking to me.
Right. And to think about it, the number of years you've served, or where you've served, the clearances you had, the access you had to the highest levels of government, the president, for crying out loud, sought your advice on things. And now all of a sudden you're untrustworthy to run the local VFW. I find that hard to believe. Come on.
It seems a bit implausible, doesn't it?
Yeah, right.
But that's the problem, is that I'm dealing with people that have never really seen a world beyond their local, county or something like that. And so they don't get the impact of this. They think they can say these things and it doesn't have an impact. A few years ago, we had someone who made this bogus complaint about a manager, and then it was a horrible situation. And I was supposed to be traveling to South Africa, and I went in and I spent an entire weekend investigating this. And I did an investigative report. I did an emergency board meeting. I called the board members in. I presented my report to them. My recommendation was there's not really much we can do. I called the police. They wouldn't come in because there's no evidence. I tried to collect evidence with an evidence bag, because what they didn't know is that I'm a federal law enforcement official. I have badge credentials. I have arrest authority when I was an active duty as a counterintelligence agent. I've done all these things, and I know how to do investigations. I was also an intelligence analyst, so I know what to look for. So I could find no evidence, and I interviewed people discreetly and privately, and also walked around the building. So they didn't know that. They just started making allegations, not against me, but against the club. And I was able to disprove all this stuff with a thorough investigation in 3 days. Submit it to the board. They agree with me. We said all we can do is be vigilant, and we'll brief people on what they need to be watching out for. And then I sent it to the district headquarters at the airport as I was flying out of Harrisburg to the commander. And then while I'm out of the country, the district called a meeting with my board members, and no one informed me while I was overseas. And then they went back and wrote a report and said that the board members had dismissed this and didn't treat it seriously. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I spent 3 days when I was supposed to be packing my bags and preparing to go to South Africa for a 6-week trip, working on this investigation, and then sent the report in from the airport. That's how serious I took it. But,
Right.
it's just, what gets me is that they don't know who they're dealing with here. They act like, you grew up in the local school and you slept with Susie behind the bandstand in 1977. I didn't do that. So the whole thing just, anyway, you know what? When I'm no longer their commander, they can have all the fun they want. When the place goes bankrupt, they can blame someone else.
Right. Yeah. And what I've seen with the American Legion, if you have a bar or canteen, as we call it, those are the ones that typically have the problems, and money goes missing. They treat it like it's not a business as it is. They treat it as some sort of private club where they can make rules up as they go along. I'm sorry. The law still applies.
And in fact, that's what I'm experiencing. I have people who come in and they're obnoxious about this. And what about this? What are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? Not understanding the impact and all the implications and expenses. I mean, like, our building has to make $45,000 to $50,000 a month just to pay the bills to operate.
Wow.
That's not even putting money aside for building maintenance and for doing things for veterans. That's just to meet the bills. That's a lot of money. Got a massive mortgage that has been refinanced a couple of times because they took a $1.3 million mortgage to build a building 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I mean, and they come in and they make these pointed complaints about things, and then when they get involved, they find out that things aren't the way they thought they were, and they were rude, obnoxious little turds, and then they start shrinking away. Yeah. So anyway, it's just I find the whole thing just. Anyway,
yeah, it's easy to make a claim from the floor. It's quite another to step up and be an officer and have responsibility and see the truth.
And the other thing I've noticed, Todd, is people hear what they want to hear. That's one big difference. Because in the Army, if I was unsure about a soldier, a trooper, an NCO, or a warrant officer, or officer working for me, I'd do the back brief. You brief me back. So I just told you what your mission is. Now tell me what you understood, which is a very effective tool. But here, people hear what they want to hear. I mean, we got a performer tonight, and last week the volunteer who offered to set this up and got sponsors, we went through what it was going to cost and how much money, and she told me, oh, that money someone else offered to pay his fee so that you don't have to pay that $600 for that. I'm like, great. So then you can divide this money this way. Everything was good. She understood it. Then 4 days later, she talks to the club manager and she's like, yeah, but Chris is trying to control everything, and he said we had to give $1,000 a club. I never said that. I said you got to pay the $250 for the room rental. And you got to pay for the bartender because it's an extra bartender. That's $400. You can do what you want with the other $600.
Right.
She said, we don't have to spend that on the band because we got another $600. I'm like, well, then you got $600 to play with. And then 4 days later, she tells him he's trying to control everything. And then guess what happened tonight? Sorry to go on about the VFW tonight. Guess what happened tonight?
No, I love it because it applies to any organization out there in the country, I think.
So they told me that they coordinated for the act, paid for. He's going to come in from 7, play to midnight. Great. So they sent me an image, a banner that they wanted to put up. And I said, okay. And it says 7 p.m. midnight. Great. So I posted on Facebook. Everybody knows it's 7 o'clock. We've been telling everybody 7 o'clock. I'm in there at 5:30 tonight, and I stayed till about 6:30 before I came in for the show here. And it's almost 7. There's no performer. I'm like, where's the guy at? Oh, it's 9 o'clock now. Excuse me? 9 o'clock? Where did that come from? Oh, they changed it. Really? The Facebook is updated. When did they notify me? They didn't. But I'm just trying to control everything. So we got dozens of people who came at 7 o'clock expecting to have a band they could listen to for a couple hours and go home before midnight so they don't get caught in traffic or drunks on the road. And now it doesn't start till 9. It's these people. Here's another one. I'll give you one more. So I was asked to make a list for a social committee. I agreed they could have a social committee. And then I was sent an email. How will we organize a social committee? I said, well, it should be informal, but one of the board members should be present. They can open the meeting and close it. And then the leads for each of the activities for events for the volunteers, because you have different teams of volunteers, they can present what's going on, where we're at, what we need. And then that way a board member can say, okay, we can coordinate for this, that, and the other. So we stay informed. And I get a message back and it's like, oh, you're just trying to control everybody. You're trying to shut things down. You have to have control. I'm like, I didn't say I had to be there. I said a board member. We have 5 board members. And so now you see what happens when a board member is not informed and they just go changing things. They think the inmates think they run the asylum. and it's just insane. And we had someone post the thing. We had opened on Christmas Day for the first time ever. I agreed to that. I convinced the board members that we would try it because there's people who don't have family. And then somebody posted that was given her permission. I'm not blaming her because she was told by the volunteers that we were open on Christmas Eve. We weren't open on Christmas Eve. So all these people came into the club and they're bent out of shape because we weren't open Christmas Eve. I didn't. And all I told is, I said, when you put those things together, please send them to me so I can see them. And then I got told I was controlling. These people are, I frankly had enough of it, Todd. It's insane.
But then you get the people who don't read anything. Let's say it's an officer's guide. They won't read how to actually conduct a meeting or actually their limits of power. They won't do that, but they'll come back and blame other people for the fact they don't have authority or the fact that they went too far. Well, I didn't know that. So, that's not on me. It is on you. You've got to read. You've got to comprehend the facts. What did the colonel put out? What the commander of the post put out? What was on social media? Read and understand what's there. It's not hard.
And then I get this nonsense from these people. Well, we went the bylaws. I said, well, you're welcome to read the bylaws. You remember, we'll give it to you. Yeah. But they think that bylaws, they said, well, we've talked to the district, the bylaws, you have to put in your bylaws. And we're like, no, talk to the district again. You don't put things in your bylaws because if it's in the bylaws, then the Liquor Control Board will fine you for violating your bylaws if you don't follow it to the letter. So you keep them as generic as possible and ours mirror the national bylaws. They're very generic. And so we create rules and policies that are in effect for a period of time. So we put rules. Like I have a policy that no employee or board member or their family members can play the small games of chance. You can't gamble because then it taints the game, especially employees, the bartenders.
People will say it's rigged or something.
Right, exactly. So they're not allowed. That's a policy. If we put that in our bylaws and one of those people get caught gambling, we'll be fined $5,000. If we just have a policy and we find them doing it, we can stop them. So these people think they know everything, but they don't. And, they'll see how it goes.
And a bartender can be fired, whereas, much easier if you just have a policy versus in bylaws. Yeah,
exactly. If it's if you have a bylaw, the problem is that the liquor control, I already have a hearing on the 21st of January for events that occurred 18 months ago. These things happened 18 months ago, and I got to go to a hearing now. We can't even remember I have to refresh and reread the whole file about this stuff. Remember what was going on 18 months ago. But we have to potentially face fines of $4,800 over things that didn't happen, but they claim happened. So hopefully it goes well. But the point is that these people think they know everything, and they know nothing. It's comical. Anyway, what are you going to do?
There we go. Well, a couple minutes here before the show's end. Hopefully everybody will have a happy new year for sure. I don't want to steal your thunder there, but I just hope everybody tune in next week. We'll be back. It'll be the first show of 2026, baby.
Yeah, no, we'll see you all next year. That's what's going to happen. We'll see them next year.
All right.
Hey, I don't want to brag or anything, but I think I saved up enough money. I can not have to work the whole rest of the year.
I used that line. I used that line earlier today.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, I think we're good for the year. But listen, for John and for Todd, I'd like to say we're very grateful for those listening to our program. We really appreciate it. For the guests we have on occasion, we're also grateful for the different flavor they bring to the program. We thank you all. We wish you a happy and prosperous new year. May 2026 be better than 2025. From the team here at the Common Sense Conservatives, this is Chris saying God bless and good night.